Yeah, hi there. This is Kelvin Mackenzie, and this is the first of my shows for UK Live, a brave new experiment in the media. And we're going to need that with Burnham coming to power. Have you heard this? So, Makerfield, who turns up there, right? Steve Coogan and the bloke out of Paddington, right? Why are they? They are massive anti-press zealots because they don't like what's written about them, okay? So what do they want? They want to bring in something called Leveson 2. Leveson 2 will mean that this kind, because let's be honest about it, it will go into the online world as well as the sort of regulated media, right? They will be stopping shows like ours or trying to stop them. Fortunately, I have some business interests in America and I will literally be broadcasting from South Carolina. However, my good colleague, Mike, to my immediate left, has been ranting on now for hours on end. He now doesn't feel as vile about everything as I do. Because the other reason that I've only just come in and I feel so fired up is not only because of the joy of doing this show and be able to reach people I would not normally be able to reach, is also because, what did I do? I got my train this morning. So I left my home at 8:15. I live in Weybridge, right? Weybridge, I don't know, 15, 18 miles from London, right? And there's 4 trains an hour, okay? So I get what I think is going to be the 43. I then get told there's a signalling problem. And then I get told there's a train delay problem. And then I get told that there is a train which is blocking the road, blocking the way at Surbiton problem. And that actually the way they're going to solve this issue, how are they going to solve it? Oh yes, I tell you, under the new, it's all nationalised and it will be the same for water. It'll be great, it'll be great. How do they solve that? They scrap the station at which I need to get off at. And so I have to go up to Waterloo to come back again, right? That is in my bill, right?
Fire alarm every Tuesday, Kelvin.
Yeah, this is the, I said this every Tuesday, right? Every Tuesday, there's a fire alarm that goes off, not because there's a fire, but because of health and safety. Because just in case you want to know where the door is, it's over there. And in case you want to know where the other door is, it's down that way. But you don't have to do anything, you just have to wait for it to stop. And, you know, there we are.
Right, well, there we go.
All over.
So I have to go up to Waterloo and then come back again, and then this, that, and the other, and there's a whole series of things which, you know, just indicate that the country is on its arse. But actually, more on its backside, actually, thanks to Burnham coming to power. Now, you, because you've probably got more brains than me, didn't listen to a fantastic, actually, unbelievably fantastic 20-odd minutes on the Today programme, in which they absolutely skewered Burnham for being the flip-flop. And not today, but as of tomorrow, I'm going to have a pair of flip-flops to my left. And every time the name Burnham is mentioned, I'm going to pick them up because this is what's happened. So he was very much pro-Brexit. And then when he went to Makerfield, he became pro-Leave. Then he said that we are too much in hock to the bond markets. And when that was put to him, he then said, because a lot of people criticised him, because being in hock to the bond markets means that we are over borrowing or over somethinging, right? He said, oh no, I do take the bond market seriously. Then he said, we're going to have to do something about the triple lock. And then he said, actually, we're going to, I'd scrap the triple lock and all the rest of it. Almost everything he talks about, he changes his mind about when anybody actually puts the other question to him. But let me promise you this. If they go for this idea of trying to regulate means censor the online world, I think that will do one thing which I'll be very grateful for. I think it will guarantee the end of the Burnham government. So my bet is 2 years from today, we'll have somebody else, a Wes Streeting character, somebody from the right of the Labour Party will come in, having gone through this terrible, terrible experiment of having somebody more left all the time. Actually, where I agree with Blair is when you go left, you always get the same result. And that's what I love about the result. The result is that we don't have a Labour government. Hooray! He's only been in power for half an hour, already he's out of power. I have never felt so joyful in my life. In fact, I feel a lot better now than when I was on that train, where actually a very nice guard basically couldn't say sorry enough in enough different languages to keep the passengers beside themselves from going completely mad. So, Mike, let me ask you this. Experienced around the world of politics, if you had to bet, will Burnham be a stayer or a goer? Is he a Trust, a Johnson? Is he a Rishi? Is he a Starmer? Or actually, has he really got 3 years in him?
I don't think he's got any time in him at all, because I'll tell you what my theory is, and I was the first person who said that I think Starmer's not going to last the course, and I was told back 2 years ago, I was told that can't happen because Labour haven't got any mechanism to get rid of their leaders, so he's there until 2029. Yeah. Well, he went yesterday, and I cracked open the champagne as he was making his farewell speech.
That isn't the first time you've opened a bottle
I don't
of
need much of an excuse, but I thought I waited 2 years for this, so I opened one. It was only a split as well, so just a couple of glasses. So here's my theory. My theory is that Andy Burnham is so conceited and so full of himself that he thinks that the economy is going to get worse, that crime is going to get worse, there's likely to be some kind of calamitous international problem. So he has an election as soon as he can have one, because he thinks he can catch Reform on the hop. Reform, I think, have accepted that. They say they're ready. They say they're going to win and beat him in an election. So he's conceited enough, has an election, loses it, and is only Prime Minister for about 3 months. That's my theory.
Okay, I think the complete opposite. Only because I don't believe that him having hung around now, stinking the place out for 25 years, that he would want to give up the one chance he had.
I bet he can't believe his luck, can he?
No. I mean, he's complete. I mean, after he was one of the reasons why the NHS went down the tube, because he was health secretary. But what about? Unfortunately, on that same 25 minutes, I listened to a really difficult interview with Nigel Farage over that 25 million quid. Okay? Now, he said he had no idea when he took the 5 million that he was going to go into politics. And he had no idea that it was going to be revealed either, because that's the truth. Somebody
somebody hacked him.
Somebody hacked him. But obviously, it wouldn't be in his interest to reveal it. So, do you believe that he is damaged? Right. So, what happens is there's going to be a parliamentary inquiry. On that parliamentary inquiry, there are 4 Labour, 2 Lib Dems, and I think 1 Tory. I think. I would think that they would take a pretty closed-eyed view of that. Right. Not necessarily on the political front, but on the kind of general, the smell test front. If he gets suspended for more than 10 days, they can hold they can hold a by-election. Now, I think he would win the by-election again. But does that damage Reform, do you think?
I think Reform are having a sticky patch.
Right.
Because I think they picked the wrong candidate in Makerfield. He would have been fine if Andy Burnham hadn't run, because he was the local guy. But because Burnham took that mantle away from him, and he wasn't a very impressive character, I'm afraid. I mean, nothing personal against Rob Kenyon. I'm sure he's a very nice guy, but there was too much going on, and it seemed to me, and it was the argument was made to me that they made out at the beginning of the campaign, Reform, this is the big one. This is the one that's going to wreck Keir Starmer's career. We're going to win it, and we're going to kick Starmer out. Vote for us, we'll kick Starmer out. As it got through halfway through the campaign, it looked like Burnham was going to win, and so they kind of backed off, I think, and weren't absolutely sure what to do next.
Well, they didn't like his stuff. They didn't like his stuff on Twitter and social media generally.
And there women particularly didn't like it.
Yeah, pardon?
Women particularly.
Well, they didn't like it. Not unreasonably, by the way, because there was one crack there against
Carol Vorderman.
Vorderman, which is really way over and beyond anything that anybody could have possibly,
and difficult to justify under any circumstances.
Yeah, correct.
Really. I mean, and so I think they've had the Restore problem as well, because Rupert Lowe's become more of a pain in the neck to them, I think, than they thought he would be. So they've made a couple of misjudgments, and I think they need to recover that. And I think the trouble is with Nigel Farage is that there is a huge body of the hall that doesn't like him in terms of the political establishment, and they'll do anything they can to stop him becoming Prime Minister.
Well, they actually don't like that. This is what I find absolutely extraordinary. They actually don't seem to like his attitude towards migration, which is literally, if there were no migration problem, there would be no reform.
No, right.
There would be a Conservative Party,
Yeah.
and Labour, I think, would be getting in for 1,000 years.
Yeah.
So, if you dumped Nigel, to my mind, you lose.
Yeah, they're not going to do that. They're really not going to do that. I mean, the only thing that might happen is he decides he's had enough of being hounded through every single thing that he does, because that's what's happening. You know, he is under far more scrutiny than any other political leader this country's ever seen.
Yeah.
Because, as you say, people don't like what he stands for. I don't know why they don't like it, because an awful lot of people in the country agree with him. You know.
Yeah, no,
and I think it's quite unfair, actually, the way he's treated.
Yeah, it's difficult to use the word unfair in relation to politicians,
True.
isn't it? I'd be honest with you, anybody who would go into politics, you'd have to wonder about their sanity in the first place.
Yeah.
There is, it's by a factor of 20 or 30 worse than the heady days of Cameron, for instance.
Yeah.
And I just wonder if you, right, supposing you were fresh out of Oxford, you've got yourself a PPE, which seems to be the traditional route of going into politics, and somebody said to you, you can either earn 90 grand a year, 95 grand a year, and be pursued every day of your life for any mistake that you made, or actually you could probably go into the city and make yourself $500,000 a year or much more with your intellect, and nobody would ever know that whatever you did that was wrong.
And that's, as a result of that, we end up getting people who would never make 90 odd grand in the private sector,
called trade union,
who end up becoming MPs because they haven't got that choice.
Well, you say that. Now, see, I wondered about that. Perhaps one of our viewers might know this. What is the average earnings of a plumber in the southeast?
Yeah.
I mean,
Probably
50 and 70 grand a year, I know plenty.
Oh, they make between 50 and 70?
Yeah.
Okay.
If they worked 8 hours a day, they could make 100.
Right. Yes, I agree with that. Yeah. Actually, it's the whole of the building business, isn't it? They're all gone by about 20 to 4.
Yeah.
Although the other answer to that might well be that they're probably now making less than they were last year, because with every passing year they're getting taxed more by this bleeding government. You know.
Yes, unfortunately, they're having the days of offering cash are over.
Yeah.
Even to the point, I'm in the throes of moving house. That we have a guy who does that kind of thing. He gets rid of all the rubbish for you.
Yeah.
And I offered him cash.
Right.
And he said, Kelv, those days are over, son. And I received a receipt with VAT on it. And I thought, well, if he's doing that, then I can't believe that there's much actually being paid in cash anymore.
No, that is extraordinary. Although I have to say there is a counter argument to that in parts of Sussex, which I know a little bit about, where there are certain people who do gardens who quite like cash. I don't know whether I.
Well, what about this then? So there's a Chinese fish and chip shop in Weybridge.
Right.
I go there.
Right.
And
How much is fish and chips there?
Well, I don't go there anymore because it's now shut. But the one up the road, 2 haddocks, some scampi, and large chips is about 32 quid.
It's a lot of money, isn't it?
So. Well, actually, it's not bad for 3. I don't think that was bad. Yeah. Anyway, so I go to the Chinese, and the guy says to me, now this is where I imagine the new regulator will take over. So I'm just about to do an impression of a Chinese fish and chip shop proprietor, right? Right. So if you're watching Leveson 2, anyway. So I say to the guy, he go, me no take card. I said, don't be ridiculous. I run a fish and chips. What do you mean you don't take card? He said, card, it never catch on, right? I said, you're joking, are you? He said, go cross road. And there was a Barclays across the road. Go cross road there, take out cash, and bring back and pay. And that is exactly what I did do. I would like to point out that Chinese fish and chip shop has gone bust. However, there is another one coming along. So I am hopeful that the Chinese... anyway, I wish the Chinese guy go. He's a very cheerful sort of fellow, but I didn't agree with his commercial acumen, although probably he was doing rather better then you are.
He did.
spoke good
And also,
English.
talking of taking an early cut, right? I've got the unfortunate situation where my road in East London, South East London, is closed, right? Because they're fixing the bridge. There's a bridge which is sort of tributary to the River Thames, and they've got all
Which
sorts
bridge
of.
is that?
It's not a bridge. It's like a little bridge over a little sort of bit of water. So it's not a massive bridge, but it's down in Rotherhithe way, right?
Well, I know Rotherhithe, yeah.
And so, but they've got these massive, great machines because they're re-tarmacking it. You know, there's huge things.
Yeah, massive. Yeah.
So I mean, there's about 15 guys working there, right? I went off to the gym yesterday. Came back about 3:30. They'd all gone home. 3:30.
Yeah.
Nobody there. Completely deserted, like a ghost town. You know.
Right,
They've been there for about 5 weeks, and I'm told they're going to be there for at least another month fixing this bridge. So you can't get from one end of the street to the other, and the buses don't run.
Well, actually, I think it used to be 4 o'clock, didn't it? It used to be 4 o'clock. And I've noticed it's coming back to 20 to 4.
Yes.
Now you have found 3:30.
Yeah.
And so it won't be long. So this is the reality of it all, isn't it? So we talk a lot about productivity and all the bloody rest of it. Not helped by British Rail. Not Network Rail, sorry.
No.
I mean, a total collapso this morning. And it's not connected. There was only one signalling problem, but there were a whole load of other problems on there.
But this is the thing, it happens all the time. Did you see Burnham's train yesterday, the Aviva train that he came down from Manchester on, was 20 minutes late, allowing him to, if he wished to, apply for a refund.
Oh, really?
You know? So that's a
delay
brave
and
new world.
repay.
How
How about no delay?
Right.
Right. Any delay, you are entitled to a straightforward, based on your own card, a straight cashback.
Yeah.
Right? Don't have to fill anything in, because all you have to do is take your ticket, which you'll have on here, or it could be a thing, and immediately put that in, right? And put in the time, boom, the money should come out.
They should, actually, it's a great idea. You could invent this. This could be a new Mackenzie way of making money.
Go on AI and it'll take you about half an hour.
But they should have those machines which not only can you pay on, but you can receive money on as well. Because you can't do that,
correct.
can you?
They're called ATMs. It's not an original idea, is it?
Well, no, but you can't put your card in and get a refund from an ATM. Hey?
Not an ATM.
No, you
not
can't.
from an ATM.
You can place money back. You can. For instance, if a restaurant or something overpays you, they can pay you back to your card, though. So it can't be impossible.
They can do it, yeah.
So there we are. Right. So what is also incredible is that I was going to have a guest in the studio. Give Mike his credit. If he's here much longer, he'll be claiming overtime. To be honest, is that I was going to have Linda Duberley, and I think she's still on her way. But I'll just check with the producer, Pooch.
Yeah, she's on her way. Should we play a couple of clips? Though?
Play a couple of clips.
Where's she coming from?
Achtermuchty. Yeah, Kelvin, did you get a storm last night, by the way?
There was a small storm.
We didn't get one.
Oh right, yes, I think that was true. I think it only fell on the wicked.
I got woken up at 4:20 by the biggest thunderbolt you've ever heard. Thunderclap.
It wasn't,
right above
it wasn't
my
your
house.
wife's divorce lawyer, was it?
It wasn't. No, he's been paid off a long time ago.
Let's have a look at Andy Burnham being sworn in.
Right.
How
This
smart
is
they
terrible.
Yeah.
Welcome to Andy Burnham, member for Makerfield.
Rome is saved.
I swear by Almighty God that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles, his heirs and successors, according to law. So help me God. Naughty boy.
Turn the water into wine. Well, they all seem to find everything he said funny, and they won't be laughing shortly, though, because I heard a car crash of an interview with one Labour cabinet minister. When they put the questions to him, they didn't seem to, the Burnham didn't seem to believe in anything. The guy basically appeared to be kind of agreeing with him in the end. You know, I have enormous doubts that we're not watching a repetition of the Conservatives. And I'm not sure what it is that Burnham is going to be able to say to the public, which is going to reassure them. Because the reality is we're skinned. How is that going to change? That can only change if we are more productive. And here we have Mike's analysis of the building industry, in which they're now going at 3:30. So supposing productivity doesn't increase, what we're then relying on is some kind of genius emerging, you know, a kind of Elon Musk here. And Elon Musk that was born in the UK will be out of the UK at 150 million miles an hour, right? Either be bought out by private equity in the US, or would actually decide to make his or her fortune in the United States, not here. So that's not going to happen. So what else can happen? We can cut our expenditure, or put it in different places. Is that likely to happen? So, for instance, are we likely to cut welfare? Let's ask Mike. Mike, are we likely to cut welfare?
No chance. Absolutely no chance. Because if Starmer couldn't get it done, this guy won't even want to get it done, right? Because he's further left than Jeremy Corbyn. Don't forget, the last time he was in a shadow cabinet, I think Jeremy Corbyn was in charge, wasn't he?
He lost. I don't know whether he did then stay, did he? He lost anyway in the battle.
There's a great clip, which we should probably find, which is that famous clip where one of the greatest clips ever of the House of Commons, where Jeremy Corbyn talks about going over to the EU. And he goes, I went over to the EU, and do you know what they said to me? Yeah. And somebody shouts, "Who are you?" It's just one of the great lines, you know. And Burnham's sitting next to him when he's saying all this, right? Which would have been
Burnham laugh?
No, Burnham did not laugh. But it's a suit. I think that's 2016-ish or something.
Okay, well, we'll try and find that. That is a great line.
It's a very funny clip.
Who are you? Who are you?
Kelvin, do you want to have a look at the water fountain?
Yeah.
Yeah. Have a look at that. What do you think that is?
Oh, yeah. That's very large, isn't it?
Is that, well, that is a very large water fountain, especially for a very small mayor. But what that does look mosquish.
It does.
Does it? Was it designed to look mosquish?
It's designed to look water dropish, I imagine.
I see. So it was just.
It's a place to fill up. It's a place to fill up your water. Apparently, he says he put this tweet out today. 100 water fountains have been put all over the city, plus 4,000 water refill points.
Well, actually, I mean, to be honest, I was surprised. I was at Lord's last year for the first time, and I was surprised that there was a free water area in Lord's. So I'm not against. Actually, I'll tell you what. I'd like to stop the word. I'd like to stop the word free, actually, because one of the issues is it's not free, is it? The truth about the matter is that that somebody somewhere is paying.
Yeah.
And you can be sure. I saw that number the other day, that 53% of the country take more out of the state than put into it.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
If that is the case, and we say it is the case, we are done for, aren't we?
We are.
What we want that to be is that we want it to be 30% take it. And I was reading...
I'd rather like it to be 20, actually.
Okay, well, in that case, any number that's not 53%, which is a big number. So I suppose the other issue is that there is no sense that it is wrong to take more out.
No.
Even one of my relatives says about the pensions and the triple lock. Even he said, well, I paid my tax. Actually, mate, you haven't paid all your tax, because we can't afford this, and that is taxable income.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I guess
how can we get to a situation in this country where people accept actually that we aren't wealthy in the way that we were, or are they going to say, "I'm afraid Mike, Kelvin, or whoever, I'm afraid you're going to have to pay more.
Well, I think there'll come a time when you can't pay more, and those of us who are able to move will move and just merely leave the country. I mean, I certainly would consider doing that, and I'm sure you have considered it in the past. I know people that have done it, because at the end of the day, I mean, you talk to Lee Nalalingam, the guy that we get who comes in and who studies local government in particular, and the number of places in Britain where there's a negative council tax collection point, i.e. more than 50 to 60% of people are not paying their own council tax. It's being paid for by the state.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it's an incredible. The Tower Hamlets is a bad place for that. I think it's something like 58% of council tax is paid by central government. And you can't go on like that. You just, you'll have a smaller and smaller number of people paying tax and a larger number of people making. I mean, the only people who've done well under this Labour government are on benefits. They've all got more money than they had 2 years ago, whereas we've all got less.
Yes, now that is absolutely shocking. I do know a case that was sent to me yesterday by a friend of mine that she's a single mum, but she lives with her partner.
Right.
She was thinking of going to work, but by the time you take all the baby benefits in and her own benefits in, and at the end of it, she decided not to bother.
Yeah, and that's what people will do. And in a way, you can't blame them, because if you're going to make less money and work, why would you bother working if you can continue? I think the only answer is to do what they do in America, and I know America's not perfect, but you can't take unemployment in America for more than 6 months. You have to find a job. And you basically, if you don't find a job, you're destitute, you're out on the street. And so
idea.
Fewer people are out of work.
Okay, one more question before Jacob Rees-Mogg comes on, who's, by the way, you should watch this, even if you don't think I'm any good. Just stay with Jacob. He's got a good old brain, that guy. Is that in our country, if we suddenly said, this is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
By the way, announce it in your manifesto.
Yeah.
We are going to do this, right? Would there be a riot? And would the fact that it's 53% mean that you had no chance of being elected?
Well, I suspect you'd have to look at carefully how that 53% is added up, because you might be counting people who are say, pensioners at this point. And many of them would say, like the welfare bill. I mean, the welfare bill also includes pensions.
It does.
So the number might be slightly higher than, it might not all be layabouts, is what I'm saying. It could be people who are in receipt of...
Layabouts. That's a good...
It's a good word. People that don't work, to me, I'm afraid, are layabouts, because being disabled is no reason why you can't work.
No, that's true. In fact, that's the whole point, isn't it? That you want to get the disabled to work.
Of course. And many of disabled people want to work, and many do, actually.
Do you know what? I went into a big DIY store a couple of years back. There was a guy operating the till. He was beyond disabled. Do you know what? I wept for that guy, and I wept for the management, because the reason I wept for the management is because I praised them for the fact that they said, right, you're in a shocking state. I mean, he really was in a shocking state.
Home base?
He was, yeah.
Yeah, I know him.
Oh, you do you?
Yeah,
okay, fine. Yeah. So you looked at him and you think, what a fantastic management that said, do you know what? I don't care how disabled you are. Can you operate that till? Answer yes. Right, and do you know what? There would be people who would actually have preferred to be served by him than to be served on another till, because you wanted to pay tribute to that guy and to show him the fact that you're in work puts to shame many, many people who are literally probably down the pub and having rather a good time. Anyway, Mike, thank you very much indeed for filling in. And see you again tomorrow. And we've got coming up now...
You might want to get an earlier train.
A guy called... good idea. We've got a guy... on the line is my friend, and normally the roles are reversed in here, is Jacob Rees-Mogg. Jacob, good morning.
Kelvin, good morning. Thank you for having me on. Is this your first programme?
It is. And the nightmare it turns out to be as well. Jacob, mind you, I have seen you gone from a ingenue, right, literally to a skilled broadcaster over the last couple of years. I would have bet quite a lot of money that was not going to happen, right? So actually putting your shoulder to the wheel has turned you into a star for GB News. Jacob does a show at 8 o'clock every night, which I would like, by the way, a show in which the audience is unbelievably on the rise in what is a very difficult market. So congratulations to you, Jacob. Can I ask you this? This discussion we're having right now, I see that our old friends from the Leveson 2 world made their way to Makerfield, that includes Steve Coogan and the guy out of Paddington. And it's clear that they believe that they have found a friend in Jesus in Burnham, and that Leveson 2, which would be, I don't know whether you read the details on that, would be beyond a nightmare, which anybody could sue, and it would have to be the media company would have to pay the legal bills regardless of whether they won or lost. I mean, it's preposterous. But do you think that Burnham, among the many madnesses he's like to adopt, would be in favour of this?
You never know. I mean, Keir Starmer was, of course, in favour of attacking the press. Bear in mind, he prosecuted dozens and dozens of journalists when he was Director of Public Prosecutions, and he lost all the cases bar one. The only person who got any sentence was somebody who pleaded guilty. Everyone who went to jury trial was acquitted, and the courts eventually started throwing the cases out. So the hostility to the media from Labour is nothing new. The Leveson report, which I did read at the time, was grade one bonkers. It didn't understand media. It certainly didn't understand things like this, that media is evolving, has evolved from 2 or 3 main channels to dozens of different channels, each one of which has to develop its own particular audience. So the failure of Leveson was one of vision and understanding, and it was going back to a 17th century type of control of the press. These penalties that you mentioned, to my mind, are against the rule of law. That to penalise somebody for telling the truth seems quite wrong. And the people, by and large, who have promoted this are people who have either been embarrassed by the newspapers or have embarrassing things that they're trying to keep out of the newspapers because they've misbehaved in their past. And I'm afraid I've got no sympathy for them.
So let's look at Burnham himself. I don't know whether you listened to the Today programme this morning.
I did listen to a bit of it, yes.
Yeah, so they gave a terrible skewering to Burnham. I mean, the game has only just started. I don't think he really realises how Starmer-like he is. So they said they made 3 points. One, that he was a pro-Brexit, but then when he went to Makerfield became mysteriously pro-Leave. He made the point when put to him in that shocking interview on Newsnight about the bond market, right? First of all, he said in an interview that we shouldn't be in hock to the bond market. And then he goes on there and they say, well, actually, I didn't really mean that, and all the rest of it. And there was a third one, which I can't remember. But
the third one was the waspy women.
It was waspy, the graspies, as I like to refer to them. Yeah, so, you know, when he gets that kind of analysis, he is going to only have to flip-flop on one subject when in power for him to be in a degree of pain, I would have thought.
Well, I think one of the important things to remember is that the level of scrutiny for a Prime Minister is of a different order of magnitude than for anybody else, including a leader of the opposition, but especially than for a mayor of a conurbation, which isn't really a very important role. You saw this, or we saw this, we discussed this with Starmer. You remember all the row about his suits and the money he got from Lord Allen? That had been known for months, but nobody was interested in it when he was leader of the opposition. Once he was Prime Minister, it was a huge story and dominated the news for days. And this is the scrutiny that Burnham is facing now. And I think he's wilting under that heat. The waspy women is a very good case in point, because it was always dishonest to say you wanted to compensate the waspy women. They didn't deserve the money. They knew for years, if you pay no attention to your own financial affairs, you shouldn't be compensated by somebody else. It's quite wrong. And it was unaffordable, and everyone knew that. But Labour pretended that they would compensate them. And it was straightforward political dishonesty. And now Burnham says, well, he might give them earlier bus passes. And it's very shabby behaviour, and it's what gives politics a bad name, in my view.
So Burnham how if we were having this discussion, we'd give him 2 years, okay? 2 years from today, my sense is that he would be in the same position as Starmer is, i.e., where economics not helpful, productivity not helpful, all over the place on various other subjects, and something big blows up, which is the area that you as a politician knew that, you know, it is the Macmillan phrase there. Well, how do you think he's going to be?
I'd be surprised if he was a great success. There may be some things that initially go in his favour, that he will be new, and new prime ministers often have a small bounce. Gordon Brown had a big bounce. I doubt it will be Gordon Brown-esque, because people really knew Gordon Brown, and they knew why they wanted him when he took over from Blair. They liked the dour honesty that Brown portrayed, whether accurately or not, but they liked that. Burnham's different. He doesn't have that widespread knowledge, so I think he'll get a bounce, but not a huge bounce. He could get some good economic news. Really depends on what's happening between the US and Iran. But if the Strait of Hormuz is opened, oil prices continue to fall back down and below where they were before as more Iranian oil comes
I get
on.
that.
That brings inflation down. That brings interest rates down. He could be lucky. What happens if 2 days after he becomes Prime Minister, England wins the World Cup? Bear in mind how important Harold Wilson thought that was to his election victory and his prospects in 1966. So you get things that could go right for him early on, but the crisis, the ability to work through a crisis, the making of difficult decisions, the fundamental problem with the finances, that we are taxing too much and spending too much and too much on welfare, none of those problems is going to go away. And he also faces the question on defence of the realm. How do we afford to defend our country? So yes, he may get a wind behind him to start with. I can see some relatively positive economic indicators, but he still faces the same old problems that Starmer was unable to deal with when he tried. His backbenchers refused to give him the support. So I think in 2 years' time, we'll be talking about the most unpopular prime minister in our history facing a general election wipeout a few months later.
So it's interesting you should raise Brown, because the suggestion was that Brown should have, when elected, or should have, when he was made Prime Minister, actually, not elected at all, when he was made Prime Minister, that he should have gone to the country. Is the suggestion now that come, we'll say, October or something, things are, you know, bizarrely looking slightly better, should he take a run at it?
I think Burnham should go to an election as soon as possible. I think every day he delays, his popularity declines as people realise that he's a chameleon, that he changes his policies to suit the political news.
Right.
He's a relatively lightweight figure. So I actually think if he kisses hands on the 16th of July, he should at the same point ask the King for a dissolution and go straight to an election. That will be the high point of his popularity. If he waits, what happens if they lose the Manchester mayoralty and Reform wins it? It's moved, remember, to the supplementary vote system from first past the post.
Yeah.
So Tories and Reform can now vote for each other freely. We can do number one Tory, number two Reform, without any feeling of shame or embarrassment of abandoning our party. That, I think, will be hard for the left to cope with. That gets lost. We have a hot summer. You know, by September, October, I think the gloss will have gone off him.
What about the sense? Okay, which brings me to another issue then. If there's a good bounce for Burnham, or a bounce of any kind, there is a sense at the moment that I think that Nigel is slightly on the back foot. The 5 million is clearly going to be an issue. I mean, a parliamentary inquiry into it will be nightmarish, I would have thought. And all right, supposing, you know, we know what happens there. How do you think Reform are doing at the moment?
I don't think they're doing particularly well. I listened also on the Today programme to Nick Robinson's interview with Nigel Farage, where he went for him over the 5 million donation. And Nigel was getting a little bit tetchy in his answers, which isn't a great way to respond and is unusual for Nigel. That Nigel's strength is that he's the good-natured chap in the pub, and therefore sounding tetchy undermines that broad image. But they've had two bad by-election results, with Matt Goodman pretending he was local in Gorton and Denton, which everyone thought was phony.
Yeah.
And then the candidate in Makerfield who hadn't been properly vetted. And that's just routine vetting, that if something comes out about somebody's past that you couldn't possibly have known, that's one thing. But if you've simply failed to check what they put up online, that's just incompetence. And so I think Reform has been losing its edge. They didn't necessarily do so well by taking the Tories they took, who have, in a way, undermined the main point of Reform, is that it's a new party, it's different. And they were trying to get in experience, which they need, but instead they just looked like a slightly Me Too Tory party with not always the most attractive Tories joining them. And that's a problem for them. And Nigel is spreading himself too thinly because he's trying to do everything. And that's difficult as well, because it is still a one-man band. It is still all about Nigel. On the other hand, Kemi has been doing very much better. Excellent PMQ performances, really clear lines, policies that's coming out of the Conservative Party is sensible and well thought through. Whereas Reform policies, when they come out, seem to fall apart within 24 hours. So, and they haven't cut taxes in the local councils they've taken over. So the gloss has been coming off Reform probably over the last year, when they peaked at 33% in the polls. They're drifting down. So yes, I think it's difficult for them. The 5 million is make or break for Nigel, but the wrong way round. That is to say, if the Standards Commissioner says this is all a great disgrace and he must be suspended, if not expelled from Parliament, everyone will think this is an establishment stitch-up. Nigel will, if necessary, hold a by-election in Clacton and win by miles, and he will get through it that way. So the more he's punished by the Standards Commissioner, the better it will be for him politically, because people will just think it's the blob trying to get him. If, on the other hand, the Standards Commissioner says, well, this was legitimate but ill-advised, then it will hang over him as a bad smell. It's too much money, and his argument for not declaring it is sort of Keir Starmer-esque in its legalistic nature, in my view.
That's some good stuff there. I agree with you. I mean, I'm a massive fan of Nigel. And in fact, were he the leader of any other party, I think he would be worth 10 points to everybody, frankly. I mean, the energy that's required, that he has given to making Reform work is beyond given to most men or women. I've never seen anything quite like it, which is both for him and against him, because his energy means that he can achieve a lot on his own, but it means that there is no oxygen left in the room for anybody else.
I think that's absolutely right. I think he's got two great qualities. One is his energy, and the other is that he has his finger on the pulse of the British people. So he knows what British people are thinking, and he responds to it extremely well. He is a formidable, intelligent, and politician, but he's also a very nice man. I mean, I see quite a lot of him in GB News. I've known him quite a long time. He's somebody you're always pleased to bump into because he's fun.
Yes, I think that's one of the strengths of GB News is it has a series of rather clever politicians and former politicians actually supplying their view to the nation, which you don't normally get. And without it, as you have proved, and actually others have proved, without it actually being party pre. I mean, this kind of discussion going on right now with somebody who has been a Conservative for how long, Jacob?
Oh gosh, I joined the party when I was 12, and I'm now 57, so 45 years.
Right, but the ability of you to cross all the frontiers is magnificent. So thank you very much indeed for this, Jacob. It's been a fascinating 20 minutes. Thank you.
Well, Kelvin, when I got the invitation to join you, I said, yes, of course I would. And I've broken my own rule, which is never to do amateur filming for proper broadcast, because I don't think it looks good enough. But as you are one of my great heroes of the media going back decades, it's an absolute honour to be invited on with you. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much indeed anyway, Jacob. Thank you. Well, that was great. That was great, that wasn't it? Well, get the good coverage. Now, welcome. I say welcome to Linda Duberley, journalist, been around, I would say, for 1,000 years, but you'd probably be offended by all of that. Welcome. And I know you've had your travails coming in.
Well, what can I say? The worst of this, I've just thought of, might have been the actuality of listening to James O'Brien for 2 hours on LBC.
Well, why did you do that?
Because I couldn't change the channel very easily.
Well, you couldn't get... I would...
Well, I went to Radio 4 next. But believe me, that wasn't a happy home for me either.
No.
So I had to listen to James's dulcet tones on the leadership of the Labour Party for nearly 2 hours.
And tell me, was he hostile to the appointment of Burnham?
I don't think he was hostile. I mean, he was mostly hostile, as usual, to Nigel Farage. And I've got to say that our previous colleague, Nick Ferrari, had him on the ropes on his programme. Now, I think Nigel Farage is a seriously good communicator. He's a very, very proficient broadcaster. But when he's questioned about this £5 million gift that he was given...
So let me get this right. Farage was on Ferraris, was he?
Yeah.
Fine.
Just before, but because of course I've been on the M4 for some considerable time, which involved 3 counties and 2 news programmes.
Right, where do you live then, Linda?
I live in a little town called Marlow.
Oh, right, it's nice in Marlow.
It's very nice.
Yeah. I think actually Nick Ferrari's thinking of moving there.
I like Nick.
Yeah.
I think he's very good.
He is good.
Yeah.
So I listened to the Today programme.
Yes.
In which he got a terrible rogering from the presenter. He clearly didn't do well with Ferrari. Is that right?
Yeah. No, he didn't.
And that was the discussion that Jacob was having there, because there is no doubt that what's going to happen, that the Standards Commission is going to come out and say, actually, this was not appropriate. You knew that you were going to become a politician. If that happens, the problem there is that the parliamentary committee that then looks into this then is made up of 4 Labour, 2 Lib Dems, I think, and 1 Tory. Okay?
Yeah.
They are going to suspend him.
Yes.
He then gets suspended. If he's suspended for more than 10 days, then the locals can then seek a by-election. Yeah. Now, that is a problematical, as Jacob pointed out, because the truth then in Clacton, he'd probably win with an even bigger majority. Yeah. And then that problem would be over. Right, you're Burnham. You might say, well, here's a very good time, right in the middle of all this, for me to go to the country. Right? Yeah. Very, very wounded Farage. Me, a mini bounce. Right? Would he get a bounce? Do you think he'd get a bounce?
Might be Andy Burnham's best opportunity. I can see how that might work out that way. But I don't think we will call an early general election. In my bones, I just think that Burnham would prefer to go long on this one. Even though I think there's a window of opportunity here. You're exactly right in how you've outlined it. I think Burnham will still go long.
Why would he do that?
Because I think that he believes that the force is with him in terms of the Labour Party. Yeah. He believes he can get some good economic advisors around him, like Jim O'Neill, who's previously advised Labour governments, who is quite a very sensible man, actually. And I think he knows that now is not the time for a short-termist politician. You have to have, and we all have to have, politicians who are in there for the long game now. We've had far too much switching around, far too much politics led by performative techniques, led by marketing campaigns, led by, how they want to appear on X. And what we need, and he knows this, Andy Burnham knows this, we need politicians who are going to come up with a policy that we can stick with for the long term. Now, I say this as a Conservative, as a card-carrying member of the Conservative Party. I do not believe that Andy Burnham will call a general election, even though
Right,
I might think it's a good idea.
Take Jacob's point that every day that goes by, the real Burnham emerges, right? It turns out to be an ocean-going dud, which is my bet. And that he ends up in the Starmer position 2 years down the track with only a year to go to an election. And then then the party says, well, we can't win with this dud. We're going to have to throw him out and go with West Streeting.
Yeah, but they could do that. I'm not saying they won't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's an unlikely scenario.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I think he will play it this way. And you're quite right that Andy Burnham is a bit of a chameleon. He blows which way, the wind is blowing.
Yeah.
He changes his mind. He doesn't flip-flop in quite the same way that Keir Starmer does. But ever since he started as a very young politician, he has fluctuated a great deal. Right from the time I was listening to the radio at the weekend when he worked for, I think it's Eleanor Mills, who was, I think she was at the Times newspaper.
Yeah.
She employed him on a couple of trade magazines. She then introduces him to a close relative of hers, Tessa Jowell, who then gives him a job as a special advisor. He works his way through the ranks of the Labour Party and in particular the North London elite Labour Party, and he gets a good gig. But when he decides, well, he doesn't decide, in the second leadership election he loses to Jeremy Corbyn, he thinks, you know what, could be King of the North. Off to the north he goes. And I'm not saying he wasn't there without some success, but at the end of the day, running the buses in Manchester is not quite the same as dealing with the huge geopolitical crisis we feel and the fact that we've got no economic momentum and there is no real sign of that happening, even in the medium term.
You know what? I get sick and tired of listening about King of the North stuff. And I tell you what, I was seriously thinking of starting a Southern party, which believes in wealth creation, believes in small shopkeepers, believes in traditional kind of economic, try and balance the books kind of thing, and kind of merge it with
Sounds like Thatcherism to me.
enterprise. But the Southern, because if it weren't for the South, there would be no wealth at all. We would be, I can't even think, we'd be North Korea without the hope. There would be nothing left, because most of the money that's created is created actually by the city. And actually, the city is viewed as, or the banks especially, are viewed as places to take money from, rather than encouraging them to get bigger and lend more money to people like me when I'm knocking at the door with some crackpot idea. But so, and I say this story. So I've got a business interest in South Carolina, and me and my business partner went into the local. This is only about a few months back. Went into the local bank there. Well, there was a whole series of banks, actually. We went into one of them and said, I wonder whether we could speak to somebody that deals with loans, right? We're not customers at this place, right? It's just a small place. And so it was loans. He said, oh, yes, you need to speak to Tom. And we go around the corner. And I said, oh, hello, Tom, introduction. She said, he said, do you deal with loans? He said, yes, I'm the chief loans officer. And so we sat down and talked with him for 45 minutes. He knew everything about the area we were interested in. He was very interested. He said, well, the first step is for you to open an account, a business account here. And then he said, let's see what we can do for you. Can you imagine?
Unbelievable. No, I can't.
Can you imagine going to NatWest or your Barclays? Has Marlowe got banks in the high street?
Do you know what? And I'm going to give a little shout out here to Nationwide.
Oh, yeah.
Because I love Nationwide because it does have an ethical principle of, of having branches.
It does if you have the
branches.
CEO makes $6 million a year. If she wants to be treated like a bank, then she should probably
She's
act
got
like
to
one.
act like a bank, and she does act like a bank, and they do have branches in towns. That's the only one.
Is that the only one? Is there no
All the
NatWest
other,
or Barclays that everyone's got?
They've all closed. They're all coffee bars.
Are they?
Yeah.
Must be expensive coffee there. How much is a coffee there?
Oh, quite expensive, actually.
Go on then, Linda, go on, have a go.
It's probably about, I don't know, £4. Someone's going to call in and say I'm wrong.
But
I tell you where you do need a mortgage. You need a mortgage at the butcher's.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Wow. But it is the best meat I've ever eaten. You get what you pay for.
Well, give them a plug then. What's the name of the butcher?
It's called the Meat Hook in Marlow.
Okay.
And it is it's people drive from miles and miles around to queue up outside that shop.
Okay, there we are. Linda giving a fantastic endorsement to the meat hook in Marlow, where apparently you need a mortgage in order to buy their estate.
Can I just tell you what? Once I was going to, I read the Financial Times at the weekend. I mean, as you know, I was a reporter on Daily Mail, so I'm a middle market tabloid girl. Yeah. But at the weekend, I do like the Financial Times. I particularly like the How to Spend It magazine. And in one of the colour supplements, there was a load of stories about cooking the kind of joints and the cuts that we used to have when we were younger that we don't have anymore. Right. I mean, heart used to be a poor man's roast. It's really clever, actually.
We're going back a few decades.
Yeah, we're going back a long way, but I do go back a long way. Yeah, right. But nevertheless, I thought it was really interesting, and it's a good way of saving money to be able to buy cheaper cuts of meat. Yeah. So I decided I was going to make this mutton casserole. And I said to Andy, who runs the meat hook, can you get me a leg of mutton? And he said, oh, that's quite difficult, actually, to come back and I'll scour my sauces. So I went back the following week and said, have you got my leg of mutton? And he said, I do. And he got it out from the freezer. And it's like a leg, a big leg. And so it hadn't occurred to me, of course, that a leg of lamb is the leg of a small animal, but a leg of sheep was the same size as a human leg. So I had to carry this down Marlow High Street. And when I got it home, I've got a very nice meat cleaver. Yeah. I cleared the decks and I chopped it in half, and I got half in the freezer and half in the oven. And it did me I batch cook, so it did me literally for 8 weeks.
And tell me, what does it taste like?
It's delicious.
What was mutton casserole like?
Oh, it was delicious. And I cooked it. It was a Greek recipe with honey and lemon. Yeah. It was absolutely delicious. The following week I did lamb breast, which is also a little known cut. I haven't yet done the heart because I'm a little bit queasy where that's concerned. But my thing is that I think people have gone off this kidneys, livers, or all those things because they like to go to the supermarket, see a nice little steak packaged up in a nice little box, pay a lot of money for it, and they don't learn how to cook properly. They'd save a lot of money if they could cook properly.
I miss rabbit.
Yeah.
Rabbit is one of my favourites.
Yeah, right. Well, if you happen to have happened across this online and you think that you're caught up in some rather bizarre Rick Stein expose, can I just point out to you this is all due to the meat hook at Marlow, where I suspect he's now doing rather large trade. I rather like the picture of you though, walking down like this. It's probably an attractive sight in Marlow. Okay, so let's go on then. Why go back to Burnham for a second? Because it's such a big thing, the idea that 1 minute we have a Prime Minister and the next minute we have somebody going to be Prime Minister who has literally been an MP now for coming up
24 hours.
Less than 24 hours, is an extraordinary moment even for the UK over the last 10 years. Yeah. And I think I saw the other day that in fact we have now taken over from Italy in the number of governments that effectively we've had in the shortest piece of time. Funnily enough, I couldn't care less. Any time there is not a Prime Minister, I am absolutely delighted because that means there are no laws being passed and I'm not going to be paying more tax. So I am hopeful that this carries on about every half an hour for the next 3 bloody years. So, but seriously, do you think that the right are taking advantage of really the disaster on the left, or because Kemi Badenoch's getting some good news because she's not reform. Farage not doing well, I don't think. I think the battle with Restore is an uncomfortable moment. Why is it that the right aren't winning? Because you're watching Lib Dems increasingly going left, because that's the way they think they are. The Greens are making complete fools of themselves. Did you see, actually, what was it? I don't know, I think I saw it in The Spectator, that there is a protest against Polanski now because the fact he's Jewish at all, and that he shouldn't effectively be carrying out his kind of version of anti-Semitism. He should. There are people to make that point, and they're saying he's not the person to make it because he is Jewish, and therefore that's wrong. So they're mad. But where is the right in the argument? The numbers don't look as though they are helpful towards a Conservative or Reform win.
I agree. So I'm just going to talk about Kemi 1 second, but there was 2 images that stuck in my head because I've been on air quite a bit over the past few days.
Yeah.
But at the Makerfield by-election at the end, do you ever get those feelings, Kelvin, where you look at a picture and you think, beam me up, Scotty? You know, is this for real? Am I really looking at something? And there's Count Binface, Andy Burnham, and a large furry bear in the shot.
Yeah.
What do you think our colleagues around the world in the political elite think of that shot? Not would think of it because it actually exists. What do they think when they see an historic by-election and that picture? I'm not saying people shouldn't have fun at a by-election, but I'm saying that characterised for me the kind of joke that we have become on the political stage. And the second thing is, when I look at Andy Burnham standing, I think it must have been in the Great Hall in Westminster with all his Labour colleagues behind him, and he's doing a bit of a selfie with him in the front and them all in the back. What do they all think that the general members of the public make of this? I mean, it was like watching a scene from a political version of Chariots of Fire or something. I mean, they have behaved so badly, they have got it so wrong, and now this looks appalling to me, but it's turned into this great moment of achievement and drama and heroism, and I just don't think most people in the public think that at all.
Well, the only thing that I enjoyed about that picture, or those pictures, was, oh yes.
There it is, look at that.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it.
Well,
Just stop
actually,
and
we've
think
probably
about
done
it.
better if we'd gone with the guy on the right there rather than the one in the centre. But the only picture I really enjoyed that came out of all of that was the picture of Rachel Reeves, right? Because she's sitting there. Now, look, if I'm an actor, I am going to be all smiles and all this. I am not going to allow my inner feelings to come through, right? Right, because to be honest with you, the way the world is, she could become, getting some job like IMF or somewhere like that out of all this. When these chancellors, once they start on the circuit, they all see each other, right, don't they? So, but she can't hide her angst.
Yeah, but we know that.
The fact that she's showing it in that way, it cheered me up no end, right? It cheered me up no end because she didn't even have the inner control to send a false message out to even her colleagues.
But do you remember that moment in the House of Commons where she started to cry?
Yeah.
And that was her, and I felt very sorry for her that day because she really, really couldn't control how she felt. Yeah. And I know from conversations I've had that her opposite number, Mel Stride, actually wrote her a personal letter saying, look, we all have these difficult moments. We all have this, sometimes this does happen to us, but, you know, we're in politics now, we pull through it, or whatever. He would not dream of telling me exactly what he said in his note. But what I said to him...
Well, how do you know it then?
Because he told me.
So he told a journalist of 40 years standing and actually swore you to secrecy
about the content.
On the Kelvin Mackenzie live Linda Duberley show. Yes, there it goes.
About the content.
Yeah,
I said I would not talk about the content.
Okay, fine.
But what I said to him, and what I would say to anyone else, and that's why I tell this story, is there is always room for kindness in politics. And I think we've seen far too little of that, and far too much superficiality and far too much polarisation. And he acted like a gentleman. So I'm telling that story because I believe...
Well, you're telling it because you're a Conservative.
But I would tell it even if I belong to another political party, because I believe in good manners and kindness first and foremost. But let me get back to Kemi.
Can I just address that point, Linda?
You're going to drag out some hideous story
No,
of my
I don't have to. You work for the Daily Mail, right?
Yeah.
And along with The Sun, which is completely vile, disgraceful. And if I could get hold of the editor today, I'd put him up against the wall and shoot him. But I have never offered kindness as a trading card.
Yeah.
But do you honestly believe that there should be kindness in politics?
No, I do think that.
You?
Absolutely. And as you say, I come from Fleet Street when Fleet Street was physically in Fleet Street.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember being warned. Who was the West Country man for the for the Sun. I think it was might have been Stuart Higgins. Actually.
Yeah, Stuart Higgins.
And he said, look, whatever you do, even if it's the Sun, you'll be fine, but don't go to the Daily Mail because Paul Dacre is an absolute nightmare. It will be terrible. And guess where I ended up? On the Daily Mail, right in the firing line. But that's journalism for you. That's Fleet Street. What I will say about my time in Fleet Street was I regarded my colleagues as completely supportive. And I don't remember ever being, and I was at one stage the only woman in the newsroom, I don't remember ever being really victimised because what we all cared about was bringing home the story at the end of the day.
Fine. So, anyway, I'll have to break off you there. Then, anyway, bringing home the stories right now. We're going to the news. Now, this is a bizarre outcome, really, this news programming, but this is part of the transformation which we're all going through. And we're a startup business, so therefore this isn't a BBC News reject. By the way, there's going to be loads of them, aren't they? They're going to fire hundreds of them. Oh, yeah. So perhaps we'll end up with a real one coming up. Okay, here's the news.
I'm Edward Hughes, the most authoritarian PM of all time. Two-tier Keir has resigned after less than 2 years in office, citing mounting pressure within the Labour Party, or the fact he's just an idiot. Greater Manchester's former mayor, Andy Burnham, Chancellor and freshly elected as an MP, is the clear favourite to become the UK's next Prime Minister, potentially within weeks, with strong backing including from West Streeting. Meanwhile, Britain is sweltering under a major heatwave. The Met Office has issued rare extreme heat warnings, with temperatures forecast to break June records, possibly hitting 38 to 39 degrees Celsius in parts of England and Wales. Other headlines include former DUP leader Geoffrey Donaldson, found guilty of child sexual offences, and calls for more LGBT veterans to claim compensation before a deadline. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
All right, let's see what the bullshitometer says. Wow, straight into the red. That's a lot of bullshit.
Yeah, see, actually, that's what we're starting with. We're actually going to design one so that when a politician comes on, and it'll be some socialist tosspot probably, right? But it might be a conservative tosspot actually. It could be any tosspot in politics actually, right? And when they come on, they start saying, this is the honour of my life. It starts going like that, right, like that. And by the way, I wonder how many times the expression "the honour of my life" has been used by politicians just as they've been turfed out. Why don't we have a vote on saying, is this the honour of our life that you're being kicked off the stage? How about that? Anyway, it's that kind of vile thought of which there'll be buckets of more coming up. Now, more importantly, coming up right now, we have a lady, I really admire her. She was the mother of a girl who was, I think, only about 20 odd, Rian White, who was stabbed to death on a train platform not far. She was heading home after a day's work working in a hostel for migrants. And the woman who is not going to allow the legacy of her daughter to go unremarked is on the line right now, and I really admire you, Siobhan White. Very good of you to spend your time here with me. How are you, and how are you dealing? Let's just talk about how you are today. How are you dealing with it all?
I'm all right. We're a bit up in the air today because it's 20 months today since she passed away.
Okay. I read the other day that after your daughter was murdered, the police basically came to you and said, please don't say what you're thinking, because we think that if you do, that there will be that will create trouble. Is that true?
No, it's been taken out of context really, because the Daily Mail didn't put the whole interview out. I was angry, full of grief, full of hate. I would have probably said some things I would have regretted. We sat with the police and they didn't tell us what to say in the sense of, you're not allowed to say it, we'll silence you. It was said in the sense of, let's just tone it down a bit, say what we need to in a way that doesn't come across aggressive. That was it. British Transport Police have been absolutely fantastic with us from day one, really.
Okay. Do you feel that your voice has been heard enough? Because you could quite easily. I'm not saying this to butter you up. I'm just saying this. You could quite easily be a politician. You could speak for what has happened to you and has happened to other people. And I'm grateful that you spend your time on this, coming and speaking on here. But do you feel sometimes that you have more to say on issues which affect ordinary people?
Yeah, I do. I think since January, since he actually got sentenced, I've become more vocal. We weren't silenced by the police at all in any way. I chose not to speak out because I didn't want it to go against us. I wanted justice for Rhiannon. When he got sentenced in January, I haven't shut up basically, and I'm getting my voice out there more and more. And I'll continue to, not just mainly for Rhiannon, but to leave a legacy for a little boy, but for other women and children that feel they've been silenced or can't come forward. If I have to be their voice, I'll be their voice. That's fine. I'll do that.
So, how old is your grandson?
He's nearly 7. He's 7 this year.
And okay, how is he getting on?
He's okay. He has good days. He has bad days. He talks about Rhiannon. We let him talk to us about her. We don't talk about her around him. Because, you know, little kids, they've got to be kids, haven't they, at the end of the day? But I bought him a book, a little diary with a lock on. So when he does get his feelings, as he says, he writes in the book and puts it away. He goes to bed with a teddy bear with a picture of himself and Rhiannon on every night. But he's okay. He's doing okay, but we all protect him anyway, so.
Does he understand, or have you protected him from this? How his mother died?
Well, myself and my other daughter Alex tried to explain to him that because he asked why we'd been in hospital, and then we had to say to him that, you know, Rhiannon's been very poorly and the doctors couldn't save her. She had a poorly brain. And he was 5 at the time. I mean, how do you break the news to that child? You know, we've literally just turned the life support machine off. And Alex said, you know, Rhiannon had a poorly brain and she had to go to heaven, and we tried to help her. The doctors tried to help her. And he started, I need my vitamins. I don't want to get a poorly brain. So Alex sat him on her lap and she said, no, it was a bad man. She didn't go into how severe or stabbing or anything. She said it was a bad man that did it, but he's been arrested. He's in the police station. And I know one day we'll find out the truth, but also at the moment, like I say, he's only 6. We'll protect him from that, as you know, as well as Rhiannon's nieces and nephews. We'll protect them from that as long as we can while they're all so small. All
right, that's excellent. That so when you talk about these issues now, has your politics changed? Were you, for instance, you know, on Starmer's side, and will you be on Burnham's side, or are you likely to move towards reform or restore?
No, it's never been about politics for me. I've never liked Starmer. It's never been about politics for me. I mean, I've met Rupert Lowe, I've met Nigel Farage, and I said, it's not about politics. You're giving me a platform to talk about my daughter. I'll take it. But Starmer, am I glad he's gone? I'm over the moon. But if they bring Burnham in, is he going to be the same? This is the thing. I think he's just going to be another Starmer.
And so how do you feel when you see a boatload of migrants come to Dover, or they announce, as they did the other day, that another 700 had arrived, a record 700, which aggravates me massively in the fact that it's a piece that big, and I'm thinking 700 people coming to our country without and not allowed to, and they know they're not allowed to. Yeah. How do you feel about it particularly?
It infuriates me, if I'm honest, because you've got Starmer, who bans people from coming in for the UTK rally, but he can't ban the migrants coming in. And they come over here and they're handed, money, brand designer clothes, new phones, places to live. What about our people? What about our veterans? What about these homeless people that need somewhere to live? And this is where we're going on I'm fighting for Rhiannon's law. And so it can be put in place that they're detained in a barrack somewhere. There's criminal ID checks, medical checks, every check going. And if they have got criminal checks, send them back, because the scumbag that murdered Rhiannon was HIV positive and treated. And he was arrested in Germany, but denied asylum in Germany and Italy. So he went to France and come here. Like, none of it makes sense to me. So I've written to the German and Italian embassies asking why.
Have you? Well done, you. So, who is your local MP?
Matt Weston.
What is he? He's a Labour MP, is he?
Oh, I assume so, yeah. He's not a nice person either. We approached him not long after Rhiannon, because I lived in Walsall when it happened, and I just wanted to come home to my family.
Yeah.
So, I had to leave my property that I lived with Rhiannon. I left my job, a job I loved, and it was basically, didn't want to help. 15 months later, when I named and shamed him, I get an email saying, I'm very sorry about your loss. Sorry, I haven't been in touch. But we could crowdfund a bench to put in a park. I just ignored him. I didn't reply. I've not spoken to the man since. That's it.
That is typical of politicians. I'll be absolutely honest with you. Until you had the courage to say, this guy has done nothing for me or my family, right? Suddenly he sees the publicity and he says, right, I'll reach out to this lady. Previously, he would have looked upon you, I promise you, I know this is absolutely shocking, he would have looked upon you as trouble, right? Trouble for himself and within his party, and trouble, with even worse, within his constituency, and possibly the kind of people who hang around MPs, activists, right?
Well, that's the thing. I emailed him about Rhiannon and wanting to come home and, help with somewhere to live, etc. Thinking my local MP, like I said, we didn't get any help. And then literally within a week, he was at the Delta Hotel in Warwick welcoming these migrants in.
Right, so he doesn't respond to your note, but he does actually respond to the fact that migrants are being shipped into the area. Is that right?
Yeah, hotel less than 5 miles down the road. But like I said, when I named... Can
I ask one other question then, Siobhan? Are you... have you found accommodation all right? And
yes, I got somewhere, yeah.
And are the council, is it a council or a social?
No,
social? So you're paying, just let me understand this, you're paying privately for accommodation, which actually, whereas I presume that the migrants that moved into the area are being funded by the state. Is that right?
Yeah, in a hotel literally 5 miles down the road.
Okay, can you just tell me again the name of your MP?
Matt Weston.
Matt Weston. Well, Mr. Weston, you'll always be welcome to come on here and explain this shocking situation. I don't know how much you pay, Siobhan, but I would have thought for everything that you've been through, the state would only be too happy to fund your rent. I can't think how that can possibly happen. What are you doing now that the viewers might think they would like to be helpful towards?
We have set up a GoFund page in Rhiannon's name.
Good.
And it's for the children left behind. So it'll be for children like Rhiannon's little boy who have lost their mom, or mothers who have lost a child like I have, to help fund towards getting them help, to help fund them having a day out. Everything is for the children left behind. We don't benefit. The only benefit we get from it is helping other children, like Rhiannon's little boy and other children. But one thing I will say is, never be scared to speak out, because I will speak out. Please approach me. I am more than happy to talk to anyone. I'm so wrapped up in my fight for Rhiannon. It gives me more drive. It gives me more determination, and I will help anyone. Because Starmer's ignored me. Jess Phillips, she was an absolute joke. But again, I don't believe Andy Burnham's going to do any better. But if I can keep fighting for my daughter's name, that little boy and other children, this is going to be my fight now until the day I take my last breath.
Could I ask you, for Rhiannon's son, where does he live now? Does he live with your other daughter?
Yeah, he lives with one of my other daughters, Alex. He's got the best life. They're absolutely brilliant together. Yeah, he's adorable. He really is adorable. Okay. He's happy. He's settled. He does. I mean, he goes to school and he writes pictures, which is heartbreaking. But for all of this, when I talk about him, he's the one that chokes me up more. But he writes little pictures like, I wish I could just get one more hug from heaven. And you look at him and he's Rhiannon's double as a child. And he chokes me. I mean, I spent a few days with him the other week and I walked away from there and I was just broken, to be honest. But we will protect him. We don't put his name out there. We don't put him out there. We will protect him. And then when he's older, we'll explain why he didn't know the graphics of Rhiannon's death, because that's traumatising for us, let alone a child. But we'll keep fighting. We'll keep fighting for it.
Thank you very much, Siobhan. It's very good, a very, very moving thought process, and good luck with your family, and especially with your grandson. And perhaps I might be unhelpful towards the MP in the future.
Can we keep nice.
Thank you.
On?
Yeah.
Lucy, we'll keep her on.
Okay.
Can we keep her on?
Yeah, sure. Why?
That was the way it was supposed to be. Lucy Connolly.
Okay. All right. Then bring on Lucy then. Oh, hi there, Lucy.
Morning.
Hi there. Hi. That's me and Linda Duberley here. How are you, Lucy? You all right?
I'm good, thank you. Celebrating yesterday's news.
Yes, good. So what do you make of it? Are you? I imagine you're weeping buckets at the thought of losing Mr. Starmer, who was so unhelpful towards you.
Distraught. I don't know how I'm going to get over it, to be honest.
So when you hear Siobhan's story, how do you feel about that? You know, I mean, you know, you, me, everybody, when you hear that kind of story and you hear a Labour MP who doesn't reply to the thoughts of a mother who has lost her son to the knife of a migrant, and yet will welcome the migrants to a hotel 5 miles up the road. I mean, that is a really upsetting tale, and I hope it hangs round his neck.
I always say, I wonder if they'd be so understanding if you know, they were in, you know, Siobhan's position. Firstly, Siobhan, 20 months is nothing. You know, you said about 20 months today, and it's difficult. Like, it might as well have been tomorrow, yesterday, mightn't it? It's just, it really isn't any time at all. So much love to you. And you're such a tenacious lady, and I love that you're fighting and you won't shut up, and I love that.
Right.
And you know,
I was half expecting the police to knock on my door.
You know, not like you said, not everybody is able to stand up and speak, but you speak for most of the women and children in this country. So yeah, it's fabulous that you won't shut up. Keep going.
Thank you.
Tell me, Lucy, I must say you look about 100 times better than the last time I saw you, which I think was shortly after you came out of jail. What, if anything, did you learn by being in jail, apart from the injustice of life, and that actually ordinary people actually don't really have anybody speak for them, as has just been proved by this MP in the Walsall area? How did you feel about being effectively watching the establishment turn against you, i.e. the judiciary, the political drive of the moment? And you were jailed through politics. You weren't jailed through the courts, really. If it weren't for what Starmer had said, which was a signal to the judiciary, you've got to nail somebody for all this stuff. So how do you feel about being powerless in that way?
I mean, yeah, it was a real. I mean, I've never really had much trust in the system since I lost my son, and there was an NHS cover-up, and the CPS and the police refused to prosecute, and the General Medical Council didn't do their job. You know, we've been failed as a family, and our son's been failed equally, but just in different ways. So I already knew that the system was not set up to help the likes of me and Siobhan and the normal people, so to speak. So I'm very distrusting anyway. But having gone through the judiciary and watching how the courts operated, watching how the prison system operated, it just confirmed and affirmed everything that I already knew, that the system is rotten to the core. And it's not, we are just little people that they don't give a shit about. They don't care about me. They don't care about you. They don't care about our children, and yeah, it just completely confirmed that the system is absolutely rotten and fails so many people. I met so many people in prison that I just thought shouldn't be there. They're no danger to anyone. They're there through circumstance. They're there because they've been failed by the system and they just need somebody to care. But equally, I'm on the outside now, and I feel like there's more people out of prison than there is in prison that should be in prison, than there is in prison that shouldn't be in prison, if that makes sense. Rape somebody, attack someone, or suspended sentence, take drugs because, you've been prostituted out all your life and beat up, and suffered domestic violence, you're going down. The system is so warped. It really is.
Perhaps Linda, you'd like to talk to Lucy.
Yeah, hi Lucy. I think we've connected a couple of times online. So I totally get what you're saying right now. We say the prisons are overcrowded, which they are, and so our answer to that previously has been to let loose a load of people who shouldn't have been let loose, without considering that there are people in there that shouldn't have been imprisoned. And I'm afraid to say, and I'm going to get the statistics on this, but I've read anecdotally that it's women who are much more likely to suffer than men, because they go in there for a number of things. You've mentioned drug addiction due to being prostituting out since a young age. You've mentioned credit card fraud. You've mentioned all sorts of crimes that they have committed in their attempt to kind of keep a life going, and they put in jail, where there should be other ways of helping them. There needs to be other ways of helping people other than just putting them in prison. That I do believe in. I want to say here and now as well, that where you are concerned, you know perfectly well that you shouldn't have made that tweet. You know that it was a hateful tweet. I've heard you say many times, you know all these things, but the punishment you endured simply did not fit what you had done. It was totally unfair. And it makes me really angry now that very serious crimes happen in this country which are not appropriately punished. And we are very lenient on some really heinous criminals, whilst we see people like you endure situations that should never, ever have happened. Fair play to you for speaking out, and also to Siobhan. And what I really liked about what Siobhan said is she doesn't want to stand on a political platform. She's made that perfectly clear. What we're standing on now is a platform where the establishment does not look after the ordinary person. It doesn't look after ordinary, normal people trying to build a life, trying to get their kids to school, to a good state school, maybe, but trying to build careers for their children, nurture their children, raise their children. And we are getting the square root of nothing in terms of support right now.
I'm looking forward to Andy Burnham, the man of the people, being our Prime Minister, given, he's going to look after us minions and us working class, the people of the UK. I'm quite looking forward to it. I mean, I'm so sick and tired over the last couple of days of hearing about how Starmer was a decent man. He was a good guy. It just didn't work out for him. All the decisions he made were for the good of the country. As a white British working class mother, I can't think of one thing that he did that has benefited me or my family now or in the long term. So,
what do you think of Andy Burnham? What do you think of Andy Burnham?
I think he's going. It'd be unfair. I don't know that much about him. As in, I think he'll be more of the same. I think he's very, very left-leaning. I don't think he's centrist. But we'll see. You know, maybe he can build a better relationship with the people, because Starmer was very robotic, wasn't he? Everybody, he had no charisma. He had no way of connecting with the normal people. So I don't know, maybe Andy Burnham will have that. I suppose we have to give him a chance, don't we? I always say it can't get any worse, but then it does.
Yeah, I just want to ask Siobhan a question, because I heard Andy Burnham say, in his victory speech, I think it was, there's something really wrong with politics today, which I think is really silly. That's a really silly remark to make, because I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with politics. I think there's everything wrong with politicians. What's wrong with politics is the way politicians behave. What do you think, Siobhan?
No, I agree. I mean, we can't put them all in the same kind of league, can we? I think Starmer was the biggest traitor for a politician. I think Starmer, his little crocodile tears yesterday about his family and his wife, etc. But what about our families? They took Lucy away from her family for a tweet. Peter Lynch died in prison over some comment. This is all Starmer, and then I was watching something where he went to Southport for those 3 little girls. But at the same time, he's gone back and drank champagne. But the man, Axel Rudicabarner's dad, Starmer had looked after him over a mass genocide. So none of it makes sense. Politicians, have I faith in any of them at the minute? Probably not. But if they see these things to get into leadership, and they're going to keep saying them, and they stick to them, the only thing we could do, like Lucy said, is wait and see. Starmer has turned us upside down, to be honest. This country's a joke.
When you say you're not interested in politics, you do seem to have a natural touchstone, probably through the tragedy of your family. I don't know.
What it is I research things. I look into things since Rian, and since I'm still so wrapped up in grief. And I keep thinking, I've got to do this for my child. I've got to do this for her little boy and my other grandchildren, because what life have they got at the moment with this going on in this country? Seriously, what life has any child got? Okay, well, look. I want to get out of politics roots, but I research a lot. I look into things a lot now, more so that I've lost my child, yeah.
So let's work on this assumption, and it's not ridiculous, mainly because all of us are going to be offered in our lifetime the opportunity of being Prime Minister. It's quite clear that that's going to be part of our given on this. Supposing you were Prime Minister, okay? You're Prime Minister with the same kind of power as Burnham. What would be the 3 things that you would do? Number 1, 2, and 3. What would they be?
Number 1, first and foremost, listen to the people of our country. Secondly, I would act on this illegal invaders, as they call them. I would take a firm action on that. Thirdly, probably put myself a bit out there a bit more as a family person to help families and listen to people, because this is a problem at the moment. We're not being listened to.
What particularly? Right, I get that you're not listened to.
My main focus would be about the illegals. If I was to stand in any kind of politic thing now, my thing would be I would keep on for Rihanna's law, because again, yes, migrants do come into, and I'm not saying every single illegal that comes into this country is going to commit a crime, but at the moment it seems that 85% of them are, 90% even.
Okay. Well, one other question then.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm only putting these questions to you because you seem to have a grasp on them. Is what would you actually do? Yeah, I'm with you. By the way, I'm with you. We need to have a pause on migration. It might be for 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. We simply have to stop it. So the question is, how would you stop it? Would you push the boats back? Or would you make it? Or would you say to all migrants coming in that they have, like they have in the Middle East and Dubai, etc., you have a visa or something? What would you do?
No papers, no documents. You go straight back.
You're right.
We don't know who they are. I mean, the scumbag that killed Rhiannon, we don't even know his real age, to be honest. And then we only found out through the court case he's got HIV. How many more? I'm sorry, I might sound horrible, but I wouldn't give them the chance. You turn around, you go back. And if they come back, you get prosecuted.
Okay, right. And if they said, we're not going to go back, okay, you know, and after all, they employ lawyers in the same way as you know, as we might, you know, hire somebody. So they won't go back. What would you do then? I mean, I know this is a big question. Pardon?
Detain them. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that would put them off. Good idea. Okay, then Lucy. Now, when you were in jail, those people that you talked to, were any of those from migration backgrounds, or were they all by and large from you know, from the kind of working class background that you come from?
They were from all backgrounds, but funnily enough, Peterborough Jail, where I spent most of my sentence, is a foreign national jail. It's where they deport from.
Oh, right.
They have a whole wing full of foreign nationals. So most of them that I came across were probably drugs related, bringing in drugs into the country, predominantly. Right.
And when you talk to these people, who was that? That they were the migrants were mainly drug related issues, or just on a general basis?
Yeah, they're called foreign nationals. That's how they kind of label them, if you like, in prison.
How did they view you? Because
I got on really well with most of them, actually. It was really funny because I remember this lady called Veronica, her name was. She's from the Czech Republic, and I became quite friendly with her. I used to go to knitting club with her in the library once a week. And she said, she was laughing. She said, if you were racist, Lucy, why would they put you in a foreign national prison? I said, that's a good question, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, but, you know, I got on fine. I don't judge people by their race or their religion. I judge them whether you're, you know, if you're good to me, I'm going to be good to you. That's basically how I work.
Okay, so I put the same question I put to Siobhan there, which is, you're Prime Minister now. We're all Prime Ministers, right? We're all Prime Ministers. Linda's one, Poochie's one, we're all Prime Ministers, right? What is the 1, 2, 3 of the things that you would do for the country? Number one, what would it be?
Detain, deport. Right. But again, like Lucy, I'm not racist. This is, you know, race, creed, it doesn't matter to me. But I would, I'd put into stop, detain, arrest, deport.
Okay, Siobhan. Now, Lucy, you answer the same question then. What would you do?
I would do exactly that. I would detain them as soon as they come into the country. I would check their papers. I would find out, you know, in a lot of ways, it's not their fault, is it? They are just coming here because it's the land of milk and honey. That's what they've been told. They know they're coming here. They're going to get a roof over their head. They're going to get X, Y, and Z. They're not going to struggle. So they're going to come. I mean, realistically, would you not? So it's the system that's at fault, isn't it? But
well, certainly that's a system which stops Rihanna's mum having a state-funded housing, right? Whereas people coming from around the world, literally going into this, that, and the other, claiming this, that, and the other in benefits is completely wrong. Ladies, thank you very much indeed. I'm very grateful to your time, Siobhan, and I wish you every luck with your GoFundMe page. And Lucy, and good luck with you. And let's, when we're all running the country for the day, let's hope our laws come through. Thank you very much. And now we're going to go to the news. Thank you very much.
I'm Edward Hughes. The most authoritarian PM of all time, Tutiya Keir, has resigned after less than 2 years in office, citing mounting pressure within the Labour Party, or the fact he's just an idiot. Greater Manchester's former mayor Andy Burnham, Chancellor and freshly elected as an MP, is the clear favourite to become the UK's next Prime Minister, potentially within weeks, with strong backing including from West Streeting. Meanwhile, Britain is sweltering under a major heatwave. The Met Office has issued rare extreme heat warnings, with temperatures forecast to break June records, possibly hitting 38 to 39 degrees Celsius in parts of England and Wales. Other headlines include former DUP leader Geoffrey Donaldson, found guilty of child sexual offences, and calls for more LGBT veterans to claim compensation before a deadline. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Okay, let's go.
Right, now let's go over to some super chats. So we have from, I can't really read that, Cidermark 7809, important. And from Simon Kilford, a tenner, very grateful for the tenner, could do with that. And Kelvin Mackenzie, a very first show today, was fantastic. Simon, you can have the £10 back for that. That was really a stunning tribute. Right now.
We've got some old recipes here and some food.
Some old recipes. I thought you were talking about Linda for a second. Anyway, so here we go. Wild boar after eating all the woodland truffles. Yummy.
Linda, wild boar, yay or nay?
Oh, wild boar for definite. My butcher makes wild boar sausages. Absolute perfection.
You're not having a fling with this butcher, are you?
Andy, I love him.
Hello.
I like wild boar sausages.
Yeah.
And the other thing I like, which is not always popular, is black pudding.
Black pudding.
Oh, I love black pudding.
There we go.
Jane Ferguson says, really homemade black pudding. There we are. One for you there, Linda. And love stew and dumps. That was Lou. I don't know. So lamb's liver, stuffed breast of mutton, stuffed belly pork. So,
Linda?
Yeah, I love that. I love pork belly. Love it. Absolutely love it.
Ox tongue, ox cheek, pig's cheek, sheep's brains.
Yeah, ox cheek, so delicious, slowly cooked, melts in the mouth, lots of gravy, tipped onto a pile of mash.
One for your fish and chip place, Kelvin.
Yeah, we know take card. I can't understand how Chinese people eat chicken feet.
Oh.
Right, well, I can't put that to that Chinese fish and chip guy because he's legged it.
I've eaten them.
Oh, have you? What are they like?
Well, I lived in Hong Kong. You pick them up and you put them in your mouth and you've got to suck the meat off them. That's the way to do it.
God's sake. Was it nice?
Oh, dear.
Yeah, very nice.
Bit early in the morning.
Honestly, you should see some of the things
Linda,
the Chinese
what were you
cook.
doing in Hong Kong?
I was actually the Asia Bureau chief for Fox News, but I got out to eat once in a while.
Did you? Actually, that's a big job, that. Linda's CV is simply fantastic.
We've got our next guest here now.
We're what, sorry?
We've got our next guest here.
Oh, right.
Intel lady.
Oh, right. Now, this is a triumph, this. And I promise...
Here we go. One more super chat quickly, because you'll like this, Kelvin.
Okay, super chat from Chris Malders. I can't actually read it. 8195. I usually super chat Mike, but you're more professional, Kelvin. Now that is not a surprise. Is that a surprise, Linda? Eh?
Don't draw me into this one.
I've got to go. I've got some lamb's hearts to eat. Okay, now we've got a lady coming on. Now there's going to be more of this, right? If I could do anything on this show, I would 101% have more humour, to be honest with you. And this lady is very funny. Now, I think she's called Intel Lady, isn't she?
Yeah.
Okay, so could I say hello to Intel Lady?
No, I think you're Bridget Phillips.
No, you absolutely cannot, but you can say hello to Bridget. That's what I was booked for, so I'm here to do that.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You are, in fact, Bridget Phillipson, aren't you? The lack of education secretary. And
Well,
I wouldn't
agree with that title, no.
And what would you? Okay, so what do you make of having a new boss in the shape of Burnham? Do you think he's going to keep you on?
Well, nothing has been decided yet, so I think we're jumping the gun a little bit with that. I would say let's just see how this plays out. Keir Starmer is going to remain in post for a couple of weeks. Couple of months, see how it goes, and then there will be a peaceful transferring of power, and that's fine. We're quite happy with that, and I will welcome whoever it is that gets the top job.
Okay, let me ask you this then. Have you thought of running for Prime Minister yourself? You've had a gilded career. You've never had a proper job, so that probably makes you number one in getting elected. So do you fancy taking Mr. Burnham on?
So I just want to pick up on what you just said there. What's all this proper job not done a proper? I'll have you know that not only did I work for my mum's charity, but I also did a couple of paper rounds and some babysitting jobs when I was younger. So that is very dangerous misinformation. If this is your first show, I'm very disappointed with the lack of knowledge and professionalism. This is absolutely disgraceful.
Well, you're quite right. And in fact, you having said that, and I like the way you punched it at me, we've just fired our researchers. Right, we've got a couple of researchers here who clearly don't know what they're doing. So,
well, then come and get a job with us. So that's
okay.
fine.
Do you fancy? Okay, let me ask you this one: do you fancy being Chancellor? I mean, Education Secretary is a big job, but Chancellor is even more important because everything you know about money has been learned on the paper round. Therefore, you'd probably be a great Chancellor for a Labour government.
Well, I've saved us quite a bit of money by closing down all of those snotty-nosed schools. Nobody needs those. So we've shut those down, saved loads of money. We've shoved all the kids into state school. So now it's a nice, cosy learning environment for everybody. We're all cozying up together. And so I think I'd probably be quite good, but I'm quite happy with my record of achievement. I think I've done very well.
Would you think of raising taxes if you were the Chancellor? Are you in favour, or are you in favour of cutting taxes?
Just raise them. Just keep going, because Rachel has not raised them enough. I think there's a lot of middle classes that have not been squeezed anywhere near enough. So we're going to keep pushing for that.
What about the one we may disagree on this, but what about the idea of breakfast clubs? I mean, surely parents should be giving breakfast to their own kids, shouldn't they?
Our greatest achievement, and I have to say, the Prime Minister really dropped the ball yesterday when he didn't mention it in his resignation speech. I was stood there waiting for him to say it, and he didn't. So he's not getting a farewell card from me. But breakfast clubs is a brilliant... Look, we need to make sure that kids get a healthy start to the day, a bit of yoghurt or a bit of piece of fruit or some toast or a bit of cereal. That's fine. And then maybe we can add free dinners and free teas to that. I think that needs to happen. I think the taxpayer would be very happy if we were just feeding everybody else's kids.
Yeah, that's right. But what about the next problem? I mean, I know you're not the Secretary of State. I know you're not Secretary of State for Health. But don't you think that if we have more breakfast, lunch, dinner, bit of tea, and then a Kit Kat before you go to bed at night? What about the obesity aspect of it? Are you in favour of? Do you think our children aren't fat enough?
Look, there's not going to be any obese children. We've got that sorted. We've got the tablets now. You don't have to inject anymore the Ozempic or anything like that. You can take a little pill. So we'll just stick them on that afterwards. It'll be fine.
That is a very good idea. So at the end of all this free nosh, you bang them a tablet of Ozempic, and then they actually lose weight. That's not bad. So what do you think? Are you in favour in the classroom, because this is your skill set? Are you in favour as Education Secretary that in fact the banning of going onto social media for the under 16s is that something that you would like to see happen, or would you like to see more social media?
A lot less social media, because we are exposing ourselves to so much toxicity, so much dangerous misinformation, and this is what we've got to stamp down on. We cannot have people listening to far-right activists like Nigel Farage. It's not good for the nation, and this is why we've got as many problems as we've got, is because people are watching things on social media that are not true and are noticing things happening that have been taken completely out of context. And then we've got a problem, they're spreading misinformation. So we're going to shut it all down. No more social media, no more VPNs, not having that. We're going to ban the lot.
Okay, one final question then. What the suggestion is that come in the autumn, the teachers' unions, which are led by a guy that's to the left of me, I know that may come as a shock to you, right? They're saying that unless they get a decent pay rise, they're going on strike. Do you think actually the education of our children would improve if the schools were on strike for longer periods than they have been previously?
I am certain that we are going to pull out all the stops to make sure nobody goes on strike. So we'll just pay them more, like we've done with the doctors. And if the nurses go on strike, we'll just throw a little bit more cash their way and everything will work.
That is brilliant. Okay, right. Well, I'm going to say thank you very much indeed to a lady, and I look forward to you being more than Bridget Phillipson next time, and I'd be fascinated to see your version of Mr. Burnham, actually. That's the one I'm really looking forward to. Thank you very much indeed. You're brilliant. Thank you very much. Now, that's what we want. We want more of that, and less. Funny. We want less of killing innocent sheep that are lying there. They're going to end up in a rather huge fridge, which I'm sure you have. Anyway, that's the lot. I'm going to call it a day now.
No, you're not.
Oh, I'm not. Oh, why not?
Quick chat with Linda, and then you're going to chat to Mark Littlewood for a handover.
Oh yeah, is that right? I didn't even know that Mark was doing this.
By the way, is this the first time you've seen your studio?
Yes, it's the first time I've done anything. Actually, I hated coming in here today. It took me 2 hours to travel.
Oh my God.
How long did it take you to travel?
It took me nearly 2 hours, and the reason, and that's driving, and the reason I drove
from Marlow takes you 2 hours.
It takes me, when I go to GB News, it takes me 45 minutes if I've got lucky enough to have light traffic.
Yeah.
But I listened to what was going on the Elizabeth line, what was going on Overground, and I thought, do you know what? They've suspended.
Why? What was happening on the Elizabeth line?
They suspended everything from Heathrow Airport to and from Heathrow Airport on the Elizabeth line, and I thought that's bound to overload the rest of the line. I was 2 hours coming back from lunch in Paddington the other day, and I thought, you know, I'm going to get in the car because I'm pretty certain I can do that drive in an hour and 15 minutes because I researched it the night before. 2 hours it took. I drove at 11 miles per hour across the county line. That's how long I was doing that sort of speed.
Right.
I got as far as Vauxhall Bridge to find the whole bridge shut off because a politician was being driven out in 2 black Range Rovers with motorcycle outriders. That was my final frustration.
No, let's get this right. While we were letting politicians have it. Vauxhall Bridge was shut.
They closed it off with the riders to allow the politician to come out and ride through. I'm assuming it's a politician because they're the only people I know who drive around in black Range Rovers other than the royal family. I don't think it was a member of the royal family.
Okay.
Having doorstepped them for years.
Yes, well, they probably waved to you as they went past. You know.
Oh, it's that woman.
Right, so we go back to the beginning of the show. Is Burnham going to survive? And will he be a success? And will he go to the country first?
I don't think he'll go to the country. I think that my feeling is that they will get, the Labour Party will get to the next general election in 2029.
With him in charge?
With him in charge. I do not think they will be stupid enough to have any kind of problem with him over the next 3 years. You know, even if they are dissatisfied, and there is a lot of dissatisfaction in this government, even if they get dissatisfied, I think they will bite the bullet and get all the way to 2029. They would be very stupid to do anything else.
Right, I don't agree with you about that. Mainly not because, the fact that he's a socialist proves he's a dunderhead anyway, so he's a no-hoper. But that's not my real reason. My sense is that with this, the world has changed.
Absolutely,
and
I agree.
Unless you have a situation which, whether you're France or the United States, where you have a period of time, right, for your job, right, it is destabilizing from day one. So the minute that you become the leader in our system, there is a clock ticking on you. That is obviously not true of France, and it's not true of the United States. And it's not true if you're Putin either. But, so I think that the power of people feeling unhappy and dissatisfied with their lot is enough to force politicians from office.
Your observation is correct, but I think that does present a problem for all of us because this is a two-way street. It's not just about politicians, it's about voters. And I sometimes think that voters have to nail their feet to the floor sometimes and be prepared to accept a period of time where things are going to be very, very tough before they get better. And I think that thanks to social media, thanks to the smartphone, thanks indeed to 24-hour news, we've got used to a period of instant gratification. When if things aren't instantly better for us, we are not prepared to stick with a plan. Now, I don't believe in sticking with the socialist plan because I think that socialism, as Margaret Thatcher once famously said, socialism is fine until you run out of other people's money. But I think that having made a plan and having got a leader, we need to stick with it for a period of time. It may not be till 2029, but I don't think he'll go anytime soon.
Right. Okay. I think the clock is ticking on.
We've got Mark Littlewood here for the...
Okay, fine. Okay. Yeah. Hi, Mark.
Hi, Kelvin. How are you doing? So, what nearly derailed you? Was it the rail unions?
Yeah.
The rail
No. It was a mixture of.
Gone mad. What was it?
I don't know, incompetence, sunshine, and the fact it was nationalised last year and was told by their idiot transport secretary that, in fact, things were going to get better. And don't take my word for it, take the guy who's on my platform, who works for them, saying that things have got dramatically worse. Anyway, I'm pleased to see you, Mark, not least of all because I'm sick and tired of my own voice, right? Which turns out to be a challenge when running a show like this, which just goes to show. And also, I run out of my own intellect. I didn't know I knew this much before I started. And the truth is I don't. Mark, tell me, what's coming up? You seem to be dressed in a rather peculiar outfit. Is there something happening tonight of which we should be told?
Yeah, I would have thought as a former editor of The Sun, Kelvin, that, you kept your finger on the pulse of football. England are playing tonight against Ghana, the Black Stars. And so we're going to be previewing that game. We've got football legend Dean Windass joining us in the show, a man who scored one of the most valuable goals ever in English football history back in 2008. And we're going to be telling you everything you need to know about Ghana. Did you know the Ghanaian government are using taxpayers' money to subsidise hundreds of Ghanaian fans going to America to cheer on their team in the World Cup? Do you think that's an idea Andy Burnham might pick up?
I would imagine looking at some of the people who are fans over there are already being subsidised by the UK government via the benefit system. Yeah. I can't believe that many of them have paid for it. Right, Mark, I look forward to the show. Very, very good of you to spare the time in between drinking and generally partying. I look forward to the show. Linda, thank you very much indeed. It was a very enjoyable time, and it's good to meet a Conservative. I knew there was one left. After me, Mark Littlewood. Coming up now, the news.
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes. The most authoritarian PM of all time, Tutiya Keir, has resigned after less than 2 years in office, citing mounting pressure within the Labour Party, or the fact he's just an idiot. Greater Manchester's former mayor Andy Burnham, Chancellor and freshly elected as an MP, is the clear favourite to become the UK's next Prime Minister, potentially within weeks, with strong backing including from West Streeting. Meanwhile, Britain is sweltering under a major heatwave. The Met Office has issued rare extreme heat warnings with temperatures forecast to break June records, possibly hitting 38 to 39 degrees Celsius in parts of England and Wales. Other headlines include former DUP leader Geoffrey Donaldson, found guilty of child sexual offences, and calls for more LGBT veterans to claim compensation before a deadline. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
Boom, boom, boom. Welcome to the World Cuppa with me, Mark Littlewood. Sit down, recharge your glasses. This is a big, big day. England back in action, 9 o'clock UK time this evening against Ghana, the Black Stars. We'll be going through it all with a couple of guests on this show and in a few minutes' time with my wingman, the Glindex, Glyn Brailsford. But let me start. Look, we're showing you on the show every day clips from around the world showing people celebrating, partying, throwing beer in the air. But I think I have found my favourite celebration in a packed bar from yesterday. This is surely the best celebration to date. Let's have a little look at clip number 3.
Has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party. I have spoken to His Majesty the King this morning to inform him of my decision.
Delirium and delight unbounded. Fantastic news. Also, I have to say, I think on the channel today, we have not celebrated enough that it is 10 years to the day since the Brexit referendum, right? 10 years ago, the British people voted 52-48 to leave the European Union. 10 years ago, right? How time flies when you're in a decade of total political gridlock and governed by pygmies. Hey, maybe Mike drank all of the champagne yesterday celebrating the defenestration of Keir Starmer. I don't know. But if you've got champagne and it's on ice, crack it open, celebrate 10 years since Britain voted for independence. I should also say, I think the England fans are beginning to make quite a cultural impact on the US of A. Not just drinking them dry and boosting their economy because pub takings have gone through the roof, but today we're returning on the ticker tape to the normal modern names of countries. We might go back to the old and ancient names, but I'm liking the attitude shown by a good number of England fans. This was spotted on an American lamppost. Pull up image 4. These fans have got exactly the right attitude as far as I'm concerned. Have we got image 4?
Sorry, Mark, that was image 4. That was image 4.
I can't see image 4.
Hello, Mark, that was image 4.
What was image 4?
Your bet.
There you go. Well, no sign of image 4. Image 4 wasn't blank. It was a little sticker on a lamppost. But look, we'll come back to that later.
Image 3. It
no,
was image 3.
That one?
Image 3, sorry, it's image 3, yeah. I'm just seeing black screen. There we go, we found it. Sorry, my bad. Make America Great Britain again. More kings rather than no kings. 250 years of hurt come home. 250 years, of course, since the USA was set up. Gulf of Mexico crossed out. Gulf of America crossed out. How about the Gulf of West Britain? Great to see the England fans there making a claim on it. So we're going to get into England's prospects for tonight. I think they're good. But to help me have a look back on what happened yesterday, 3 of the hotly tipped teams, let's bring in my wingman, the Glindex, Glyn Brailsford, to talk us through the various scores. Not too many shocks and surprises. Glyn, how the devil are you doing? What happened yesterday? Talk us through it. The RGs, the French and the Ouija's are all through to the next round. We proved that we can curse teams on UK Live Online because we profiled Jordan on the show yesterday, the country of Jordan, and a few hours later, they're knocked out of the tournament. So let's hope we can do the same for Ghana today. What happened last night, Glyn? Talk us through the scores on the doors.
Well, I guess it was a case of the big guns striking again, Mark, wasn't it? Messi making World Cup history. Mbappe and Haaland both scoring twice as a race for the Golden Boot hots up. Another goal rush, Argentina, Norway, France. They all reached the last 32 and 13 goals again in 4 matches. So we're keeping up that 3+ goal scoring record. But I thought Messi was just fantastic last night. We can row about this later if you want. But what can you say about him? I liked what the newspaper said about him this morning. Their headline was, "Another fine Messi," which is a good line, particularly if you're old enough to remember Laurel and Hardy. And I think what's really remarkable about Messi is his rate of goals has actually increased in tournaments, has actually increased the older he's got. So he's actually scored 12 of his 18 World Cup goals since he was 35. 12 since he was 35. So 7 in Qatar, 5 so far this time. And last night was the 6th successive World Cup game he scored in across tournaments. And only 2 other players have ever done that. Just Fontaine for France in 1958 and the brilliant Jairzinho in 1970. You'll remember him. But his sharpness, his determination. That second goal he scored, there were 5 Austrian defenders around him. And who was the sharpest, smartest? It was the 39-year-old. Amazing.
Yeah. So all 5 Argentina goals in this tournament have been scored by Messi, right? That takes his total career tally of World Cup goals up to 18. that's a record. Okay, he's just overtaken, was it closer, a German player? Although he got an absolute hatful against some poor team. His number's slightly inflated. 28 World Cup appearances for Messi. I think that's a record as well. So, yeah, there's an argument. Greatest player of all time. I'm not totally persuaded of that. But my beef is he shouldn't be on the pitch, right? He put his studs in the back of a player early doors in the first game. Should have been a red card. It's violent conduct. Should have been suspended. So I'm not all that about Messi. I think they've got away with one, the RGs. Overlooked for prestige, basically. So, but then looking at the other game, Norway. Norway. Sod Haaland. For the first Haaland match, I put 20 quid on him getting a hat-trick. He scored twice. For the second Norway match, I've put 20 quid on him getting the first goal. He scored the second and third goal. These guys are starting to cheese me off, right? What did you make of Norway?
A functional performance. They've got Haaland. They're going to win against any small fry, I think. And I wouldn't call Senegal small fry by any means. Haaland, I don't know what you think about him. Aesthetically, just not my favourite player, but what a finisher. He just makes goal scoring look so natural, so easy, so effortless. And if he was with a bigger team, you'd back him. He's 25. You'd back him to get the World Cup record sooner or later, wouldn't you? But I'm not so sure with Norway. But his international record, he's now scored in 12 consecutive matches for Norway. And get this, he's got at least 2 in each of the last 6 games. It's just bloody incredible. And with 4 goals in 2 World Cup games, that already makes him, he's scored twice as many goals as Norway players in previous tournaments.
Yeah.
As for the game itself, well, Norway sailed through, didn't they? Or should I say rode through, Mark?
Rode through. Actually, this is, I think, the best fan, the best fan action, meme, vibe. I don't know what you'd call it. But the Norway fans do this rowing thing. And with the little bit of assistance from AI, this is how their fans think that they can row the World Cup all the way home. That's clip number 10, I think, Pooch and team, if we've got that one. This is quite awe-inspiring to watch. So I think they have got an outside chance. Brilliant fans as well. Now, however,
was that intentional, Mark, or inspiring?
That's a yellow card already for first Corley joke. You will be suspended in due course.
I'm looking forward to it.
However, what do you make of this? Right, in Times Square, New York, apparently every day, a bunch of what look like slightly woke people get together to do their yoga. Now, look, I have done yoga, and it's been quite good for my injured back. I'm not totally against it, but I don't think it really blends very well with boozed up football fans. However, the Norwegians, very good at assimilating into any culture in which they find themselves. So the yoga class in Times Square, New York, ended up being a little bigger yesterday than you'd usually expect. So let's have a look at clip 11, the Norwegians joining in for a bit of woke yoga.
Breathing out, step your back foot forward, and your hands come to your heart. Let's play 2
There you go. What do you make of it? I don't think yoga and football really mix though, Glenn, right?
Not for me. Shall we have a quick word about France?
Yeah, so Mbappe back on the score sheet, but one that you would literally have fallen to sleep for because there was a rain delay of more than 2 hours.
That's right. Yeah. 2 hours. The way they measure this thing, for those who didn't see it or couldn't sit through the whole thing, they have to take a measure, if you like. After the last lightning strike, you have to wait 30 minutes. If there's another lightning strike, within that 30 minutes, you start again with 30 minutes. Once it's clear air, then there's, I believe, the players go back on the pitch for 15 minutes to warm up. and then they kick off 15 minutes later. So I think the crowd got there. Well, the kickoff was 5 o'clock, and they left the stadium at 9 o'clock, so 4 hours. And God knows, I think there were 68,000 people there. Heaven knows what the concourses were like during the break.
Look, this is health and safety gone mad, isn't it? Or is there a real danger that a bolt of lightning that you can see 10 miles away would kill players or spectators? This just seems to me completely out of control, that a lightning strike would delay a game for 30 minutes. Or am I being too old school on this one?
I think you are being a bit old school on it, Mark. I think what they should have done, we've already seen what fantastic stadia they have there. So why weren't all the games in areas that are prone to get storms, like Florida, for example? Why aren't all the games, I know we were in Philly last night, but I'm just picking one for an example, but why aren't all the games taking place in stadiums with dome roofs? And then no problem.
Yeah, and given they've spent one of the stadiums we looked at yesterday, the one in Los Angeles, the SoFi Stadium, cost $5.5 billion to build.
That's right.
I mean, don't you get a roof for that, right? I mean, I would have thought.
Exactly.
I mean, if I was buying a bit of a building for 5.5 billion, I'd expect a roof, I think. Now, I've got a theory about how the Argies won. So this means that the Argies, the French, and the Norwegians are all through to the next round in virtual winning.
Right.
Should just say the other game, one for the absolute connoisseur. If you stayed up to watch Jordan versus Algeria, well done. Algeria won 2-1. Riyad Mahrez, once of Leicester City, part of their Premier League winning team, got a good assist for them there. Algeria are still in it. Jordan out, gone home. But here is my theory. It's not down to the diminutive Lionel Messi that Argentina won yesterday, Glyn. It is down to the Argentinian fans kidnapping an Austrian dwarf. I kid you not. I don't know, can you say dwarf, midget, short person, height disadvantage? I don't know what the terminology is now. But they get this very, very tiny Austrian fan, remove all his Austria gear and convert him into an RG. I think that was good juju for the RGs. Have a little look at clip number 2. It's damned hilarious. There you go. That's what you need to do. Bit more dwarf kidnapping, please, fans.
I guess you get short odds on them winning now, Mark.
What's that?
I say, I guess you get short odds on them winning now.
Yeah. This is your final warning. The red card is coming out next for any more of these terrible puns. Look, let's bring in my first guest, the wonderful Matt Bowles from the Prosperity Institute. Matt, welcome. How the devil are you? How's the mission of making the world a more prosperous place going? And are you enjoying the World Cup? You've got a proper job, so you're actually able to watch any of it?
Yes. Well, thank you ever so much for inviting me, Mark. Yep, I'm very well indeed. I hope Mallorca's treating you very well. I've managed to catch some of the earlier games. The 8-9 o'clock kickoffs, and then maybe the first half, the 11 o'clocks, and of course on the weekend when they go slightly earlier. But I mean, unlike some of the detractors of this World Cup, I believe it's been fairly positive so far.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I'm really enjoying it, but the slight downside is I have now gone 13 days without sleep. I think I'm looking pretty good on it. All things considered, not bad. Especially if you bear in mind how much beer I've consumed over the last 13 days. Now, Matt, you are from Billericay in Essex, right?
Yep.
That presumably explains why you're a Liverpool fan.
Yeah, no. So there's a tale to that. I'm a Liverpool fan because the first live game I saw was Liverpool versus West Ham way back in the FA Cup final in 2006. My dad's a West Ham fan. West Ham went 2-0 up, and being the inner contrarian that I am, I decided to support the then underdog Liverpool when 2-0 down, and Liverpool went on to win. I stuck with that because I can be a right nuisance.
So, am I right? Did Stevie Gerrard get kind of some last-minute equaliser or something in that game? West Ham were practically celebrating, and then Gerrard got a crucial goal. Am I remembering the right match?
Yeah. It was a Gerrard screamer from about 30, 35 yards out.
All right. Well, listen, I'll forgive you that then, Matt, because supporting Liverpool as a glory hunter is unacceptable, but supporting them as a very straight in-your-face rebellion against your parents, that is more than acceptable. But as you know, I'm a Southampton fan, so I've got a massive chip on my shoulder about everything that's happened to Southampton. But tell me this, Liverpool, Lionel Messi, Manchester United, your big rivals, do you think the big teams and the big players get preferential treatment by referees? So I am still arguing, although I love him as a player, that Messi should have been sent off against Algeria. He shouldn't have been there for on the pitch. But because it was Messi, he was allowed to stay on. Against big clubs like Liverpool, Manchester United, the smaller teams always say it's easier for you guys to get penalties, potential red cards are overlooked, and the smaller teams like Southampton never seems to break their way. Do you think there is any truth in that?
I mean, I think it's a fairly difficult conversation. I mean, from the part and club level perspective, as a Liverpool fan, I'd be the first to start moaning about various Manchester City VAR decisions that have gone in their favour when in title races over the past few years. Now, I'm sure that's a similar argument for clubs like Southampton, the slightly smaller clubs in the Premier League. But I must say I do tend to agree with you, Mark, that the decision about Lionel Messi, that seemed a funny one.
Yeah, I think it's all a bit tilted, and I think that the smaller teams always get a rum deal. I mean, Manchester City, massive mega club, 115 financial irregularities against them, been dragging on for years, no punishment. Southampton sends some intern with a set of binoculars to have a look at another team training that you can easily see from the street. We get expelled from the competition. There is no justice. What about the quality of refereeing, Matt? Because one of the things that irritates me in the Premier League, and I know there's so much at stake that you oftentimes want to make sure you've got the right decision, even if it takes a delay, because there's such huge amounts at stake for who qualifies for Europe, who wins the league, who gets relegated. But in the Premier League, typically speaking, you can be waiting 3 or 4 minutes, sometimes longer in the stadium, while people draw geometric lines on a sheet in some studio way off. Until you actually get announced that the goal was onside, offside. It makes it nearly impossible to celebrate a goal. Now, VAR is being used in America, but from everything I've seen so far, with one exception, which was a long, weird delay for a potential Spanish fifth goal that didn't matter, they've used technology way better than we do in the Premier League. Instantaneous decisions, a bit like for the Croatia equaliser just before half-time. I was waiting for I was expecting I was going to have to wait for 5 minutes or so before we knew whether it was a goal. They got it done in seconds. The Americans seem to have got this nailed. I wouldn't mind technology if it worked that quick, but it doesn't seem to work that quick in England. Are we some sort of third world football country now, way behind the USA, which is hardly the home of football?
Well, you say it's worked better so far this World Cup, and again, broadly, I would agree. But I'm not sure if you remember the France-Senegal game, where one of the French players got completely cleaned out in the box. The referee didn't give a penalty, was asked to review his decision at the VAR screens, and then, I mean, to me watching at home, it seemed a very clear-cut penalty and a mistake by the referee, but the referee stuck with his decision. Again, ordinarily, I would say that maybe we need some more of that. If the referee believes that he has made the right decision, the responsibility and culpability is then on him if he sticks with the decision. I've been a big fan of the corner technology. If a corner's wrongly been given, if a corner has wrongly not been given, then it becomes a corner, but it doesn't work the opposite way. So I'm not sure why that is. You might as well have the technology for both sides of that corner decision.
It's to favour the attacking team, I guess. Is that right? It's to favour the attacking team. But then they've weirdly changed the rules about what's allowed in the box just before the corner kick is taken, right? So jostling in the box by the attacking team is no longer allowed, but you may end up with more corners. So on the refereeing, I wonder whether you think, Matt, it should be harsher still. I want to show you, I'll admit, it's not from the World Cup, but a clip I came across, which I think is the harshest refereeing decision, the harshest red card I have ever seen in my life. Little bit of context here. It's young kids playing football, and a little boy, I don't know, he must be 4, 5 or 6 or something like that, sees his big brother is playing on the pitch just next to them and decides he wants to go and say hello to his big brother and wish him well. And here is the referee's reaction. Let's play clip number 9, Pooch. That's harsh. I want to see more of that. I want to see more of that in the World Cup, right? I mean, referees, no messing around. The kid is off, invaded the pitch, absolutely without justification. Matt, what are your tips and bets? I am on an appalling run of betting. I'm placing a 20 quid bet every day. I've lost all 6 of them since this show started, and it's bloody Erling Haaland who's let me down. Right, badly. I had a bet on him yesterday to score the first goal. He scores the second and third. I had a bet on him in the first game to score a hat trick. He got 2 and seemed to be absolutely determined just to lay off assists for the rest of the bloody game. So I'm furious, and I'm now chasing my losses. But other than England, we've only seen them in one match. I've liked the look of Morocco, and I've liked the look of Norway. I mean, they're slightly dark horse bets. What do you think of England? Where are they positioned in your head, not your heart? And of the other teams that you've seen, who do you think might win the trophy? Either one of the favourites or a dark horse that we're still overlooking, Matt?
Sure. Well, naturally, I would love for England to win the World Cup. I don't. Maybe it's the pessimist within me, but I don't see us getting terribly far, mainly because of the route that we've got through the tournament. It seems like with the expansion of teams, the USA seems to have a fairly easy run. There's been a couple of other kind of mid-tier nations that have fairly direct routes to the semi-finals. I've been impressed with France from the second half of their first game against Senegal, and I mean Spain in the first half against Saudi Arabia. Admittedly, only Saudi Arabia. But the way they were linking up was very good. I'll give Thomas Tuchel his credit, however, that he has managed to get the England team playing almost like a upper middle table or top table Premier League side. There's a bit more of an attacking flair rather than an international football defensive mode of football.
So better than your beloved Liverpool, then, or about on equivalent with them.
Certainly better than Liverpool last season. Let's put it that way. But as for dark horses, Morocco I was greatly impressed with against Brazil. They properly took the fight to them. Norway, as you say, they seem fairly free flowing. Haaland, of course. I think, as Glyn alluded to in the last segment, against the smaller teams, he's always going to rack up a few, maybe not quite the hat trick for your bet. I've also been greatly impressed with their winger, Nusa, I think his name is, plays for Leipzig, very speedy and tricky around the wings. One team you never mentioned, though, and for me would be the kind of pinnacle of a dark horse, would be Japan. Now, in the lead up to the World Cup, they beat us on home ground at Wembley. They drew against the Netherlands, who many would have towards that pool of nations that could go on. Might not be favourites to win, but at least get to the quarters, semis, finals. And smashed Tunisia, right? So Japan, they're very technically capable. I mean,
Right.
Japan
Give
would
us
be
a
my
whole
dark
spread.
horse.
If you had to put a 20 quid bet to help me chase my losses, who would you put it on?
I mean, from the outset, I quite like the look of Germany.
Ah, there you go. I could get pretty good odds on them. I think they're about 12, 14 to 1. And Matt, before I let you go, you might be aware, but if you're not, I'm going to spring it on you, that although I'm losing money, I'm presently winning the Mark Littlewood versus Rest of the World prediction competition, in which each and every match I make a prediction. Because it's me against the rest of the world, I'm allowed to go first.
Sure.
And then my guest makes a prediction, and whoever gets closer, me or the rest of the world, you chalk up a point. And I'm going to ask for your prediction for the first match this evening, which is Portugal against the mighty, mighty Uzbekistan. I have gone 3-0 for Portugal. What's your prediction, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't detour too far away from that 4-0. I can't really see the Uzbeks scoring, although Congo managed it in Portugal's opening game, but 4-0 for me.
4-0, so 3-0 for me, 4-0 for Matt. And lastly, you're at the Prosperity Institute, now one of Britain's leading think tanks. Just tell us in a sentence what the Prosperity Institute is and how people can find out more about you and your work, Matt.
Well, of course, the Prosperity Institute is, as the name suggests, trying to bring about prosperity via free markets, via economically liberal but slightly more social conservative outlooks. So you find out more about the Prosperity Institute, please check out our Twitter, our website, and get in touch.
Matt, good luck. Thanks for your predictions. I'm going to stick 20 quid on Germany, so I'm coming after you for a couple of pints if that tip proves to be erroneous. Enjoy the game tonight against Ghana, and we'll check in with you later in the tournament to see whether your Japanese tip might have been a good one as well. Great to see you, Matt. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. We've got a football legend joining us shortly. A man, one of my favourite old school style footballers. You know, I'm very old school about football. This man sums up old school football. That's Dean Windass. But I think we're going to go to the news and then we'll be joined by Dean. I want to hear from him about how the game has changed and what he makes of the World Cup so far. But before then, here is Edward Hughes with the news.
Good morning, I'm Edward Hughes. The most authoritarian PM of all time, Tutiya Keir, has resigned after less than 2 years in office, citing mounting pressure within the Labour Party, or the fact he's just an idiot. Greater Manchester's former mayor Andy Burnham, Chancellor and freshly elected as an MP, is the clear favourite to become the UK's next Prime Minister, potentially within weeks, with strong backing including from West Streeting. Meanwhile, Britain is sweltering under a major heatwave. The Met Office has issued rare extreme heat warnings, with temperatures forecast to break June records, possibly hitting 38 to 39 degrees Celsius in parts of England and Wales. Other headlines include former DUP leader Geoffrey Donaldson, found guilty of child sexual offences, and calls for more LGBT veterans to claim compensation before a deadline. Remember to like and subscribe. Laters, Tigers.
That was Edward Hughes with the news. Now, this is the bit I've been really looking forward to. We're joined by Dean Windass, a legendary footballer over the 90s and noughties. Dean, how the very devil are you, Squire?
Beautiful, mate. Beautiful day. Looking forward to the game tonight. So, yeah, should be a good one.
Now, what have you made of it so far, Dean? Look, we've only got 90 minutes of England to judge, but we'll see them again tonight against a weaker team. What have you made of England so far based on that one performance and keeping an eye on the other teams? You know, who are we going to have to beat if we really do want to bring it home after 60 years? Who's caught your eye who could stop the Three Lions?
Well, I just listen. I think that it's been a different World Cup because of all the timings of the games. You know, previous years you look forward to watching the games in the afternoon. There's 2 or 3 games a day in the afternoon, and everybody, especially when the football season finishes, a lot of supporters get bored because there's no football to watch. But this one's a slightly different, obviously, with the timings of obviously being in America, and so all the timings are different. But yeah, you can't look beyond. Obviously, I watched the Argentina game last night, and you know, Messi's the the main man for them. You know, the best footballer in the world. Then obviously then Mbappe gets a couple of goals last night, and then Haaland gets a couple of goals. So Brazil obviously got Scotland tomorrow. They're going to be one of the favourites. So whoever you play, you've got to beat the best teams to get to win the World Cup, and you've got to beat the best teams to get to the quarters, to the semis, and then the final. So, listen, at the end of the day, the heat's a massive bearing, you know, on it. You know, it's 30 odd degrees here in Hull, and I won't like to run around in this heat this afternoon. Trust me.
Now, does that mean, Dean, that you are in favour of these hydration breaks because of the temperatures? We're all a bit cynical about them. I think they've just been brought in to allow more commercial breaks and to split football into a game of 4 quarters rather than 2 halves. But do you think they are necessary for a kind of player safety issue if you're playing in these sort of conditions that can be sizzlingly hot?
Yeah, I'm against it. Of course I am, because obviously if I was playing and you stop starting all the time, it's and you say for example the period that you're playing well, and then all of a sudden you have the water breaks, and it stops that momentum. But then I totally understand it because of health and, as you say, health and safety in a sense. That you know, the world's changed in health and safety in factories and on building sites and things like that. So you know, so you've got to look after the players because it is so hot. You know, people probably don't realise when you do play football, even when I've been a footballer and it's red hot. You know, we didn't have water breaks. You know, people are going down with cramp and things like that. So I'm against it, but I know the reason why it's been obviously taking place.
Now,
Dean?
I want to ask you in a moment, Dean, about the kind of psychology of the game. Because, all right, at the moment, we're just getting to the tail end of the group stages, where obviously you want to win all your matches, but you can afford a slip-up. From the weekend, it is do or die. Now, I suspect, Dean, you might have rewatched this clip a good number of times. But if we go back to 2008, you scored one of the most valuable goals ever in English football to get Hull City up to the Premier League, a feat that they've managed again just this year. In part, I'm going to say because my beloved Southampton were kicked out of the competition, but nevertheless, credit to Hull City for defeating Middlesbrough. But look at this wonder goal from 2008 from Dean Windass. That's clip number 5, please, Pooch.
It's Nick Barmby. Windass to his right, Campbell to his left. Hull City's top scorer, Fraser Campbell. A slip by Lewis Carey. Windass! Quite simply, destined to be from Dean Windass. A clinical volley, a vital step forward, and who knows, maybe that's the moment from the hometown boy that for 104 years of history, the city of Hull has been dreaming about.
Well, it's fairy tale stuff, isn't it? For the first time, Fraser Campbell is allowed to turn and run, and he leaves the defenders on their backside, but then he's got the presence of mind to spot Windass, and how about that for volleying technique? It is first class, gets his head still, watches the ball right onto his foot. Well, the rest is history. That is absolutely magnificent.
Dean, as I say, I reckon you've probably seen that goal a few times since 2008. What a hit. Best goal you've ever scored? I mean, certainly the most important goal you've ever scored, right? But possibly the best goal as well. What a volley.
Yeah, it doesn't get old watching it, does it, really? I get told about it every day. And when people come up to me all the time and say, you know what, it's amazing, 18 years ago, you know, and the answer to your question, no, it wasn't the best goal. You've just answered the question yourself. It was the most important one. But yeah, you know, it was a special moment for me and my family and the football club. I've obviously moved back to Hull now, so I live back in Hull now. And so, yeah, it was a special day, a special moment, you know, a defining moment of a game. I always said, even in every playoff final, it's not the great spectacle, it's not the greatest game to watch, because people know that the implications of the financial situation. Ours was 60 million. I think it's 200 million now, 250 million now. I don't know what Hull City got this year, 200 million. So that's the importance of it. That's why it's so cagey. But no, yeah, listen, I did that in training every day for 20 years and probably smashed it over the bar and in the trees, you know. But no, you know, and you was talking about the weather. You know, that day I looked at the thermometer on the pitch side, and it was 100 degrees that day. And you know, I was 39-year-old, and I scored in the 39th minute, which is ironic. But I can remember doing the warm up and saying I came back in early. I said to Phil Brown, I said, I was blowing after the warm up, never mind start of the game. So because it was that hot. But no, listen, it was a great moment in my life. I've got a different chapter in my life now, and you know, yeah, it's nice to people, especially every time the playoff finals on every year. It got classed as one of the best championship playoff final goals ever seen. So I'm quite proud of that. But yeah, it just I don't and people, you know, take the mickey out of me when I do my after dinner speaking. Is that, you know, I don't really talk about it. I don't have to, because everybody else does. So, but no, it was a special moment in my life.
I bet. Now, what I want to get into...
Can I ask you a question?
Oh, you're going to ask about the new game, Glyn, weren't you? Yeah.
Yeah, kind of the new game, but also you just pointed out you were 39 then when you scored that goal, same age as Messi, so you've got something in common there. Did you ever... You see today how cosmopolitan the game is. You know, the players who play because their granny once went on a bus trip to Wales, so they play for Wales. If you were playing now, have you delved into your family background? Would be a country that you'd be eligible for?
Yeah, well, I told the story on the podcast. Actually, it was well, I was playing for Aberdeen, and when I was 24, I was, I think. I remember Roy Aitken pulling me in and saying that Craig Brown wanted me to play for Scotland. So there's a famous road in Hull called Hessel Road, where all the fishermen used to live and work, and my dad used to be a fisherman. And I rang my dad up when he was alive, and I says, Dad, obviously Craig Brown's asked me if I've got any Scottish grandparents, and my dad said to me, son, you're from Hull and you're from Hessel Road. We've got no Scottish grandparents in Hull, mate, trust me. So I went back to Roy Aitken and I says, look, sorry, no. And then 4 or 5 years later, I can't remember the year, but I remember Mick McCarthy being manager of Republic of Ireland and was at the PFA Awards. And Mick came in and we had a few drinks. And Mick came in and he says, have you got any Irish grandparents? So again, I rang my dad and I said, Dad, Mick McCarthy's asked me if I've got any Irish grandparents. So my dad went, Dean, you're from Hessel Road. You've got no Irish grandparents. But ironically, Mick McCarthy's secretary rang me up on the Monday because I said to Mick, in tongue in jest, when we had a few drinks, I says, yeah, I have. I've got an Irish grandparent, yeah. He says, oh, that's very interesting. So on the Monday, I got a phone call, private number, and it was a lady on the phone saying, oh, is that Dean Windus? I said, yeah. He says, oh, I'm Mick McCarthy's secretary. Well, I thought it was a PA. I thought it was a wind-up. And they says, oh, could you send your papers in, please? And I says, oh, I was only joking. I said, I haven't got an Irish, I ain't got any grandparents, I ain't got any papers. So, yeah, so I probably could have played for Scotland. I probably could, and I think it was that year when Ireland got to the World Cup as well. So, yeah, I could have probably played for Scotland or Ireland. I was never, and I admit this, you know, when I was playing, you had Shearer, Fowler, Sheringham, Michael Owen was coming through, Andy Cole. You had all these top English strikers, and I remember scoring 10 goals for Bradford the first year in the Premier League, and I scored 10 goals. And then when I look back now and I see, you know, players like Dean Ashton got in, you know, unfortunately for Dino, he got injured, but Dean Ashton got in, I think, playing for a Championship club and scored so many goals, or somebody played in the Championship and gone. And people who were saying, oh, you scored 10 goals for Bradford in the first year of the Premier League, you should get in the England squad. And my answer was, I'm not better than Shearer, Sheringham, Fowler and all these. And they were playing, obviously, top clubs. I was playing for Bradford, no disrespect to Bradford, but I was always going to fight a relegation battle. But thankfully for us, we stayed up that year in the Premier League. So that was a massive achievement. But yeah, there were the stories of my international career. But no, you know, I had a wonderful 20 years. You know, I had no regrets on the pitch. Certainly had them off the pitch. But,
Dean, what I want to know is a question of what goes through the head, right? Because a lot of pundits talk about this, you know, whether a team is prone to kind of mental collapse if they let in an early goal, or, you know, let in a goal with only 5 minutes to go, or some such like. What's going through your mind? I mean, we've played that 2008 goal. Is it sort of you're just so attuned to how to hit the ball that it doesn't cross your mind that there's 60 million quid at stake. About 10, 15 years ago, I met Kevin Phillips after he'd scored the winning penalty for Crystal Palace in the Championship playoff final. And I was lucky enough to go to the party with the players afterwards. And I asked him, so what the hell was going through your mind as you took that penalty? And he said to me, it's just another day at the office, Mark. Is that really the psychology? Are you able to blank out from your brain how important it is? Because this is going to matter from this weekend for all of these international players, however technically gifted, whatever flair. How do you keep your mind focused and the psychology right?
Yeah, Kevin's a good friend of mine, and I think Kevin voted the goal at Wembley as the best goal as well. So thanks for that for Kev. But yeah, you don't go out on the pitch thinking about money. You go out on the pitch to win a game of football, to play the best that you can play for your team. I was a footballer where if I set up a goal, I'd be more delighted than scoring. If you get both, then brilliant. But if you contribute to the team and you play well, every manager that I played under said if you play well, then the team will play well. Well, that was a massive pressure and a massive compliment, but I took that like duck to water. So when after the game, when we've won the game against Bristol City, which I've always said Lee Trundle is a friend of mine and he played for Bristol on that day, and I said you were a better team than us. You just didn't take your chances, and one chance came to me and we took it. But then afterwards, when you sit down and you put your phone on and you get all the messages and you get this, that, and other, and then all of a sudden you go, oh wow, we've just got a massive win bonus there. Oh wow. Hull City have just got £60 million. Oh, wow. We're in the Premier League next year playing against the big wigs. Now, I played for Middlesbrough and Bradford in the Premier League. Some of my teammates had never played in the Premier League. So it's a massive jump. Hull City have got a massive job in their hands this year. Full credit to them. They've got over the line. You just said there about your Southampton team. Very unfortunate. That was my tip to go up. If you would have played Hull in the playoff final, you would have been my tip to go up because you went 17, 18 games unbeaten. I think that's something
21,
like that, is it?
21.
21, was it? Yeah, that's my dementia kicking in, by the way. Sorry. But no, listen, you don't think about it. Kev's right. You don't think it. Kev wouldn't have thought about that penalty. Kev was an unbelievable top striker. And he wouldn't have thought putting that ball on the spot, oh, this is going to cost, was it Crystal Palace he played for at the time?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Crystal. Yeah, he's not going to put the ball on the spot to win. Yeah, against Watford. Yeah, he's not going to put the ball on the spot thinking, God, if I miss this, it's going to cost the club 120 million, 150 million, whatever their prize was. You put the ball down. It's repetition. It's your football intelligence that, as you say, that ball I hit. I play a lot of golf, and I used to say, when you hit a drive down the middle, you don't have to look where the ball's going. You know where it's going. You pick your tee up and you put your club in the bag. As soon as it left my foot, I knew that it, I knew it was going in. And as soon as it hit the back of the net, then like Don Goodman said, the rest is history.
Dean, it's been great to have you with us. I've got one more task for you before you go. Over the course of the entire tournament, we've got me, Mark, against the rest of the world on a predictions competition for each and every match. Because it's me against the rest of the world, I go first, but I'm asking our guests on the show to make a prediction. So I'm going to ask you to make a prediction for England versus Ghana tonight. I've predicted a very bold 4-0 to England. So you can have any score you like apart from 4-0 to England. What's your tip, Dean?
Well, there's a lot of factors, like I just said, about the weather and things like that. There's no bad teams. There's not. Listen, every game in the World Cup's a cup final to the lower nations or the big nations. I think we'll win the game. I don't think it'll be as comfortable as what you think. That's why you keep losing money. You need to start listening to other people, But I think we'll win the game. I don't think it'll be as convincing as a 4. I hope it will be. And I'm going in the pub to watch it with my mates tonight and having a pizza and a couple of pints. I'm going to go for a 2-0. I'd say 2-0. But as you say, we get through, and then I want us to get through tonight, and then it gives Total the chance for the third game to play the other lads, give the Declan Rices and Harry Kane will want to play because he wants the Golden Boot. Look at Haaland, Mbappe, Messi. You want to be chasing their record for the Golden Boot. He won't want to be left out. But I think if we win the game tonight 2-0, it gives Total the chance to play the squad in the next game, and then we can move on to the knockout stages. But I'll go for a 2-0.
Dean, you're a wise man. I'm going to be following your betting advice in future as I chase my losses. Dean Windass,
I've lost a few bets in my time.
Thank you so much, Dean, for joining us. I hope to get you on in a week or two's time, hopefully when England are deeper into the tournament. But it's great to have you, Dean. Thanks so much, and enjoy the game tonight at your local pub. Speak to you soon. All the best.
Pleasure. Thank you. Thanks very much.
So coming back to my wingman, Glyn, look, great to hear from Dean Windass there. Old school, traditional number 9 centre forward. They don't make them like that anymore. But let's look at tonight's game, Glyn, and not just the team of Ghana that we're facing, but the country of Ghana. What have you got in our Glindex for us in terms of what we need to know about Ghana, the country, and the Black Stars, the football team?
Hey, I tell you what about Dean just before we do. If that's dementia, bring it on. He was bloody fantastic, wasn't he? What can I tell you about Ghana? Well, first off, tonight's going to be a bit of a journey to the centre of the earth, because Ghana is a country that geographically is actually closest to the exact centre of the Earth's coordinates. The intersection of the equator and the prime meridian is located in the Atlantic Ocean, just a few hundred miles off its coast. It's a cocoa powerhouse. It's the second largest producer of cocoa beans in the world. It's home to Lake Volta, which is one of the largest artificially created reservoirs in the entire world. It spans almost a third of the country's landmass, so it must be enormous. And the name Ghana translates to warrior king, so I'm a bit worried about that for tonight. On the footy front, well, you mentioned it earlier, but their nickname's the Black Stars. It's inspired by the Black Star at the centre of the Ghanaian flag. Their best achievement, World Cup achievement so far, is, if you recall, they got to the quarterfinals back in 2010.
And Luis Suarez cheated them out of...
Yes, I was just coming on to that. You just beat me to that one, Mark. But ever the lovely figure, Suarez, wasn't he? A very nice character. But there we are.
If he wasn't biting your ear off, he was stopping the ball on the line, deliberately gave away a penalty that Ghana missed and then were knocked out.
Yeah, terrible. They're managed by Carlos Queiroz, who Manchester United fans will remember. And I think this is a funny one about their players. You know, like most modern players today, when they're filing into the ground, they avoid eye contact. They pretend to be listening to music and all that kind of stuff when they're heading towards the dressing room. Ghana's players are different. They play drums, they sing on their way, and they call it jammer time. Although no disrespect to them, I hope it's hammer time tonight for Harry Kane and our team. A few familiar faces in their lineup, notably Antoine Semenyo of Manchester City, real threat on the wing to us. Perhaps less noticeably, Jordan Ayew and Abdul Fattah from Leicester, a young kid, not so young now, but Brandon Thomas Asante has worked his way up the leagues from Salford. He featured in Class of '92, some people might remember. West Brom, and now he's just got into the Prem with Coventry. And then perhaps controversially, Mark, Thomas Partey is likely to be in the lineup.
Yeah, now let's get into this about this guy. So he's on bail at the moment. He couldn't get into Canada, I'm right in saying. So I don't think he could play the first match against Panama. Quite weird to discover that Canadian immigration rules under Mark Carney seem to be stricter than US immigration rules under President Trump. But there you go. And assuming he plays tonight, there's been a bit of controversy about whether the England players should shake his hand or not because of the charges that he's on, that he faces. And I think Ghana are saying, well, if you don't shake his hand, none of the other team will shake your hand. What do you make of that? I mean, I like just keeping all of this away from sport and treating the sport as an enclosed event between two teams. What's your take, Clint?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'd like it not to mix. I know that in some workplaces, if you're on those sort of charges, you'll be suspended. But we've seen that these investigations could take so long. I think if you remember Mendy at Manchester City, it took 2 years, 3 years, and I think he was cleared eventually. So that's a huge chunk out of a player's career. Not that it necessarily justifies if he's guilty. But the key point is, I believe in habeas corpus, the right to a trial, and I believe in the fact that he's innocent until proven guilty. So on that basis alone, I would shake his hand. How about you?
Yeah, I think the same. I don't think you can pick and choose like that. I mean, what else? That you don't shake Lionel Messi's hand because he got in trouble for some tax issues? I mean, it becomes absolutely ludicrous, right? Now, however, I do want to focus on a little bit of potentially bad news if we can pull up image number 1, Pooch and team, because look, we've been pretty keen on saying that England should win tonight. All right, maybe my 4-0 is a bit of a stretch. Maybe Dean Windas's 2-0 prediction. But look at this. Could this unravel us? A Ghanaian witch doctor, Nana Kwaku Bonsam, is apparently putting a curse on Harry Kane for Tuesday night's match. He says, I'm working on Harry Kane. I've shown what I'm capable of before. I must admit, I don't know what he's shown of his capabilities before. So I know what work I must do to stop him. I am not wishing him serious injury. How much do we need to worry about the Ghanaian witch doctor, Glyn? I'm kind of assuming that now he's said that, we'll offer him full settled asylum seeker status in the United Kingdom, a free hotel room for the rest of his life, and discounted Premier League football tickets. That's probably how the immigration services will act.
Yeah.
Are you too worried about the curse?
A season ticket. Not too worried about the curse, but I think there is another curse that might worry us. I don't want to be a Jonah, but no country has ever won the World Cup when they've been managed by a foreign coach, Mark.
Yeah, I know. We're going to come on to that.
Yeah.
And I think Helen was just saying actually that in Senegal, when she lived there, they would put juju on the other teams. I don't know whether all this superstitious mumbo jumbo amounts.
Well, let's just talk about the game a bit. I mean, England ranked 4th, Ghana 74th in the world. What could possibly go wrong? But England have moved to Boston.
Let's just try and put those numbers in kind of English domestic football terms. That would be a bit like, say, Aston Villa or Chelsea or Liverpool facing your beloved Rotherham, who I guess rank about 74th in the English league table. That would be about the gap, right?
Yeah. I think the gap could be wider for me. I think we're going to be 92nd next season if we even make the season. There's all sorts. We're going to this another time. But anyway, England have supplanted Scotland. They moved to Boston for the fixture, right? So are we going to see a New England tonight, Mark? Another one? Do you want to send me off now?
Yeah, you're definitely. This is definitely going. This is a final warning. Any more corny jokes, and I'm reaching for the red. So it's in Boston, which has been drunk by several times over by the Tartan Army, I think.
Yeah. It'd be dry for the English fans. I reckon. I don't know what lineup's going to be, but I think he'll start Saka on the bench again tonight. We were talking yesterday about whether he's got full fitness, but Noni Madueke, more than capable deputy. I also think he might start with Gordon again up front and leave Rashford on the bench. What do you think?
Yeah, well, after Rashford's great goal, I'd prefer to start with Marcus Rashford, but I think there's just a tiny injury issue over him, a small injury issue. So
there's that, but also I think Tuchel really likes Gordon's pressing, and if you look at his stats for the game, he was, I think, the most effective presser on the night, and also in tournament statistics is up there as well. So I can see him starting, try and wear them down, then bring Rashford on. What I do worry about is England at the back, of course, and we talked about this before. Yep. I hope he picks John Stones and Mark Gay as a centre-back pairing with Gay on the left. That's his more natural position. I think Tuchel likes Stones because Tuchel himself, I don't know if you know this, but his injury was cut short by injury, but he was a sweeper / libero. And of course, John Stones played that role with distinction at City a few years ago. So I think that's why he wants him in the team. Right. But having said that, I wonder how many times Semenyo's skinned John Stones and Mark Gay in training at Manchester City.
Yeah, there you go. Now, really Glyn, you were alluding to something earlier, which is potentially, even if you don't believe the witch doctor juju stuff, some voodoo curse being put on Harry Kane, you mentioned earlier this foreign managers thing. So look away now if you don't want bad news for England. And I think it wouldn't just be bad news for England. It would be bad news for a total of 27, at least 27 of the 48 teams competing in the World Cup. I don't know if we can bring up image 2 and hold it on the screen, Pooch, because no foreign manager has ever led a team to victory. Every single World Cup winner has been managed by someone of that nationality. Now, here are the 27 teams who are not managed by somebody of their own nationality, but by a foreign manager. You can understand that, I think, a bit for the kind of minnow teams. You can understand why Curacao, for example, would go for a Dutch manager for sake of argument, or Haiti or whatever. But these are the teams that, if you believe in the doomed to fail prediction, that in nearly 100 years of this tournament, the manager of the winning team has always been the same nationality as the winning team. And those are the 27, and England are amongst them, of course, with a German manager. The USA, now being tipped by some, they have Maurizio Pochettino, an Argentinian manager. We ummed and ahed about whether to include Morocco in this list, one of my dark horse tips. Apparently their manager is dual nationality, and one of those nationalities is Moroccan, so you can argue it's 27 and a half. What do you make of this, Glyn? I mean, it's one of those statistics that, apparently is overwhelming, but does it amount to a whole hill of beans? Foreign managers have become a lot more common, would have been unheard of, going back 50, 60, 70 years. Does it mean much?
I don't think it means much. I think what it does mean is inevitably the World Cup will be won at some stage. I'm not saying this tournament, but will be won by a team with a foreign manager. But if the trend does persist, it means Brazil, Ancelotti would have gone. Portugal would go. US, Canada, Belgium. They would all go. I think Belgium are more or less out anyway, or they'll struggle to get through. What worries me more is that the teams. There are 4 teams with homegrown managers, if you want to call it that, who I'm worried about. Didier Deschamps, of course, with France, Scaloni at Argentina, Nagelsmann, Germany, and coming up on the stand side, Ronald Koeman with the Netherlands as well, or Holland. Shall we correct that today?
Holland, yeah.
Holland.
So, and that's the thing. I just wonder whether, the game has become much more global, much more international, but I wonder whether it goes a little bit to the unity of the dressing room, communality of purpose. I don't know. We'll see. If
I'm
you
not
believe
sure I
in
agree.
That, in that rule, then 27 and a half of the countries are excluded. Let's have a look before we go, Glyn, at tonight's matches. So we've got Portugal versus Uzbekistan is the first game. Now the Portuguese disappointed enormously in their first match against DR Congo. That was a 1-1 draw. We've got England versus Ghana. We've spoken a lot about that. Panama versus Croatia. That's the other match in England's group. And then for the connoisseur, if you're willing to stay up till 3 a.m, Colombia against DR Congo. Starts with the Portuguese, Glyn, against Uzbekistan. Surely they notch up their first win, Ronaldo and co, right?
Well, I would think so. I mean, I think the big question is, of course, we've seen all the big dogs in the tournament so far. Question is, will Ronaldo finally come to the party? And surely he's not going to get a better chance than tonight, I would have thought, against Uzbekistan. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I'd have that as a nailed-on Portugal win, but my betting record, and I had Portugal versus Congo as a nailed-on win. Let's look.
Or do you think it's one too many tournaments for Ronaldo?
Yeah. But it could be, yeah. I mean, he's clearly, no longer at his best. Look, I want to show you something about Congo. Look, we've profiled loads of fans drinking the bars dry. Who's got the best fans? Who's got the best chance? Who's got the best rowing action? And all of the rest of it. But I think DR Congo have the single best fan in the world. And he is going to be there at tonight's game. Let me look up his name. He's known by his nickname, Lumumba Veya. And he is a living, breathing tribute to DR Congo's first president or prime minister. I don't know if it's president or prime minister there, Patrice Lumumba. And the statue of Patrice Lumumba, their first leader after independence, stands in their capital city. And he replicates that statue and remains absolutely statuesque whilst watching a full football match. It is quite incredible to watch. You won't believe this is a human being. Have a look at clip number 12.
Now already that quick question of what happens in 2026. And there's a man who pays tribute to late Patrice Lumumba, stands that way the entire match. Yeah. Motionless. It's a very glowing homage that he pays.
pretty stunning stuff.
It's
I mean, I don't know
offside.
Yeah, I don't know how you keep that pose for 90 minutes, especially with excitement going around you. So what do you think of that game, Colombia against Congo? You'd have to fancy the Colombians who've already won their first match, right? I've gone for 3-1 to Colombia.
Yeah. I've got Colombia shading it, Mark, 1-0, because DR Congo and no mugs. I think this one's really tight to call, but in the end, I'm just going for the South American team playing in South America because it's in Guadalajara, right, tonight?
Yep. And then the other game in England's group, that's Panama versus Croatia. I've gone 3-0 to the Croatians. I think they will probably get the runners-up slot in the group. I don't know if we can pull up the entire prediction slide, which I think's just been sent to the production team in London.
Yeah,
with my
I've gone 2-0 for Croatia on that one.
2-0 Croatia. So here's my predictions. As I say, my money bets are doing badly, but my non-money prediction bets, I'm a bit ahead of the rest of the team. I say 3-0 to Portugal. Our guest Matthew said 4-0. I say 4-0 to England. Dean Windass accused me of being an easy target for the bookmakers. He went for a more modest 2. 3-0 to Croatia for me, just 2-0 for Glyn. And I've got a bit of a higher scoring game for the late night one. Colombia 3, DR Congo 1. And Glyn's just gone for the 1-0. I am chasing my losses, and despite Dean's tip, I'm desperately looking for a bet that might yield something. Here is my bet of the day. That's image number 4. I've put 20 quid at odds of 2.64 on England versus Ghana. A total of more than 3 goals to be scored. You'd expect England to basically be scoring, but it doesn't matter whether they're scored by England or Ghana. So if you're right, Glyn, that it could get a bit shaky at the back and we do let in a goal or two, maybe this is a good one. But as you can see, I am 120 quid down. This has become, I'm spending more on losing bets than I am on beer. If I'm not careful. So it's England, Ghana tonight, 9 p.m. kickoff. If England win, they're through. They will join Argentina, France and Norway, who qualified last night. We asked at the top of the show about whether Messi is really the best footballer of all time. He's probably a few years beyond his peak now, but 5 goals in 2 games you can't really argue about. But Glyn, who would be your pick of the greatest of all time? Sometimes Ronaldo and Messi dominate that discussion, but I'm not so sure. I want to go back a few years.
For me, partly my age, but I think it's got to be Pelé, Mark.
Yeah, I would go with that too. For all that's said about the modern game and for the marvels of Messi and Ronaldo over the past couple of decades, for me, the best, the GOAT, the greatest of all time is Pelé. And if you don't believe me, well, I'm going to have some evidence to show you. But do remember, if you've enjoyed the show, make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to this channel. I'm delighted we busted through 10,000 subscribers just yesterday, and hundreds more people per day are subscribing. But it really helps us if you can subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button. Let us know your predictions in the chat. Make sure you join Mike tomorrow from 7 a.m. on the Mike Graham Show. And then I think it's Kelvin who's back at 10 a.m. tomorrow. And we'll be back at noon, hopefully celebrating an England victory and our qualification into the knockout stages. I've used up all 5 minutes of my stoppage time on tonight's show, but I think we can just squeeze in a little bit more so you can be played out by the greatest footballer that the world has ever seen. Here is clip number 8, Pelé's 5 greatest World Cup goals. See you tomorrow. Laters, Tigers.